Over the last couple of years, I made dozens of fun fact videos, and I thought it'd be kinda useful to put them all in one single location to make the ultimate old school RuneScape trivia compilation. So here is 2 hours of the best RuneScape facts I've gathered over the years, and I guarantee that you'll find at least one thing in this video that you never heard before. Let's start with something interesting. I'll let you decide if it's actually worth doing. You see, at the Colosseum Wave 2, you can get a modifier called Totemic, and this modifier heals enemy NPCs back to full. What you can do is make the totem spawn next to a Jaguar warrior and constantly heal it to full while you AFK train your combat. The Jaguar will never go to 0 hit points, and the maximum AFK time you can do is 20 minutes. I wanted to test this out and see if it's actually a viable method. So I completed the first and second wave at Colosseum, got the Totemic modifier, and went down with my range training. The one downside is that Jaguars have a decent defensive stat bonus. So what I did is every 5 minutes I would just double spec with Bandos Godsword to get defense down to 0. Then I would refresh my Divine Ranging Potion alongside with my prayer points and repeat that process every 5 minutes. I wanted to see if this is actually better than Gemstone Crab. I used exactly the same gear, same potions, same prayer, and these were my results. I got 105,000 ranging experience per hour at the Colosseum Jaguars, which honestly I thought that was pretty good considering I was using a magic shortbow. And I got 85,000 experience per hour at Gemstone Crab, so about 20% less, give or take. The reason for this is actually pretty simple. You see, Jaguars give you plus 5% experience boost multiplier to all your hits. Meanwhile, Gemstone Crab gives you minus 12.5 experience. So it makes sense that Jaguars are about 17 to 20% better experience rate. The downside of Jaguars is that you constantly need to Bandos Godsword every 5 minutes to keep the defense level at 1. And you essentially have to complete wave 2 at Colosseum as opposed to Gemstone Crab, where you just kinda show up and start attacking. The AFK times are pretty similar. Like I said, technically you can do 20-minute cycles at Colosseum if you want, because that's when you stop being in combat. But realistically, I just glanced over every 5 minutes to restore my stats and do another round of Bandos Godsword special attacks. Also, you can AFK melee combat as well. You just need Noxious Halberd because it's pretty much the only melee item that works here. And on top of that, if you're a real gamer unlike me, you can do this exact thing at Wave 7 with Minotaurs. The Jaguars give you plus 5% bonus experience, but the Minotaurs give you plus 10% bonus experience, so that's even better rates per hour. I'll let you decide if this is good or not, but I must admit, when I heard about this, I thought it was definitely a unique and interesting way to train your combat, and at least worth mentioning in the discussion. Okay, let's move on. Next up, there is a way to gain 15 Marks of Grace plus 60 agility tickets per hour if you have the Achievement Diary Cape, and this is how you do it. First of all, start at the Brimhaven Agility course. You need to tag your first pillar here, then 60 seconds later tag the second pillar. Immediately after tagging that, you teleport to RD and complete the rooftop lap. Once you completed the lap, you use your Achievement Diary Cape to teleport back at the entrance of Brimhaven course, pay the 200 GP fee to enter again, and you'll still have enough time to tag the next pillar without missing any tickets. Using the last 40 seconds of the second pillar plus the first half a minute of the third pillar, you have enough time to teleport back and not miss out on anything. Since RD rooftops have roughly 3-minute cooldown timer for Marks of Grace, you are expected to get about 15 marks per hour plus 60 agility arena tickets plus about 65,000 agility experience per hour. Currently, I'm trying to get the blue Recoloring Graceful from Brimhaven course, so doing both of them at the same time to also get my Marks of Grace is very efficient. I'm not losing out on the experience, and I'm also getting double the resources. But okay, I know, agility is mega boring, I get it. Let's come back to combat training for briefly. If you're ever doing any Chinchompa training and if you have a Crystal Halberd on your account, I would highly recommend you bring that item with you because you can get extra 50,000 melee experience on top of the experience you get from chinning. Crystal Halberd's special attack works really well with clumped up NPCs. You just see a massive experience drop every time you hit the entire stack of monsters. If you combine together multiple special attack features like Death Charge, Light Bearer, and Surge Potion, you can do 5 special attacks in quick succession that gives you 5,000 melee experience, and you can repeat this process every couple of minutes. Once your special attack runs out, you go back to chinning and repeat the cycle over and over. I like to use Void outfit when I'm training here because there are less switches, and since the Maniacal Monkeys have no defense bonus, Void gear hits really well against these NPCs. So if you ever wanted to squeeze some extra experience out of your range training, you can add this in to boost your melee experience as well. And let's move on. Here's a quick tip on how to get one time 35,000 smithing experience for a couple of minutes of your time. If you completed the Desert Treasure 2 quest, the first chromium ingot you make yourself gives you a lot of experience, and here's how you do it. Firstly, go to Lazar Undercity, click on the teleporter and choose the third option to go to Northern Science District. Then run south until you see a bottle. Enter it and there should be a white remnant inside the house. Spacebar through the dialogue, and once you're done, use your blast furnace teleport. Once you're inside Blast Furnace, talk to Foreman and there should be a new dialogue option called I need to borrow your furnace. After you click on that, you will enter a cutscene and make a chromium ingot yourself if you have 40 runite ore, 40 addy ore and 170,000 GP. Once you spacebar through the dialogue options, you will get 35,000 smithing experience for a couple of minutes of your time. It costs about 500k GP in total and you can only do it once, but if you dislike smithing and want some quick experience, you can use this method. Next up, here is the fastest way to get medium clue scrolls if you have an alt account. Harpy bugs have 1 out of 128 chance to drop a medium clue, but in Varlamore there is a spot that has dozens of them clumped up all together in one multi-combat zone. So what you do is set up your alt account in a way where it draws all the aggro. You can do this by using a cannon and a goading potion. It's also recommended to have tons of prayer bonus on the alt because you will be using protect from melee. Just plant the alt account in one place and sip a goading potion every 6 minutes, or fill the cannon occasionally. And with your main account you just go in circles and either use Ice Burst, Chinchompas, Ice Barrage, whatever AoE option fits the best for you. Once you hit your scroll box limit, you bank, turn it all into caskets and repeat this process again. With this method, I got about 120,000 magic experience per hour, and that is just a nice side benefit to have on top of getting tons of medium clues. I got about 25 medium caskets in 90 minutes of doing this method, and it is so much more profitable than opening up eclectic implings or doing any other method in the game. If you want to get ranger boots or any other medium clue rewards, or even farm master clues that you get inside the medium caskets, this is the way to go about it. Jagex is actively sabotaging me. You see, in my last video I showcased a useful tip where you can talk to a Varlamore master farmer and they will stop moving around. This allows you to pickpocket them much easier than anywhere else in the game and makes the activity a lot more chill. Jagex didn't like that, so a couple of weeks ago in a blog post under the other changes, they mentioned how this has now been removed. But little do they know, I am an absolute menace to society, so I'm gonna show you how to still do it even after Jagex tried to fix it. If you run a little bit east of the previous location I showcased, you come across this house that has a rope spawn in it. Inside the house there is another master farmer and there is a tile you can trap this farmer on. It will never move after it's been trapped and you can still enjoy your chill thieving method to gather some seeds. Also, unlike the previous method, I doubt Jagex will remove this one because it's not a bug. Trapping NPCs has been a thing for many years now and it doesn't really go against the game rules. So if you want to take a break from your usual thieving training, this is a great place to AFK some farming seeds. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about some interesting OSRS facts that you might not know about. Did you know that you can use a spade on your spirit tree inside your player-owned house to rotate it around? After some painful and hilarious dialogue with the spirit tree, you can rotate it without needing to rotate the entire room itself. It doesn't have any massive benefits, the distance to teleport still remains the same, but I've seen people try to rotate the entire room to get the right direction, and this makes it a little bit faster. Also, you can use something called Goblin decorations that you get from a Christmas holiday event on your spirit tree. If you once again go to building mode and use it on the spirit tree, it changes the asset to Christmas themed spirit tree. Next one, we're speeding through this. I've been slowly trying to get a max cape on my main account and honestly, most of the time I'm just trying to AFK as much as possible while playing other games. I did have a problem though. I have to constantly glance over my second monitor to see if I'm still training or have I gone idle. That's where I found this plugin called AFK Overlay. Essentially, it opens a small movable window that you can put anywhere on your monitor and it will let you know if your character is idle or not. So in this clip, if I stop woodcutting, it turns the window blue, and if I click on the tree again, it turns it opaque. And I can put this overlay on other games I play on my main monitor because it always stays on top. I can also change the settings to give audio notifications instead of visual cues, and it's just overall a very good plugin to have while I'm playing other games. But I still want to AFK in Runescape. I only like to keep the prayer and combat stats on when I'm doing my AFK crab training, and when I'm actively playing other games, I like to turn on both audio and visual indicators because sometimes I still miss if it's only one of them. So I hope that helps with your AFK training just like it did with mine. But let's talk about Varlamore Part 3 now. I already briefly mentioned crabbing, so let me quickly give you a useful tip here. About 1 year ago, Jagex reworked the smaller prayers. Now using the 5% booster stats, drains 1 prayer point in 36 seconds. This gives you a nice small boost without almost any downside, and you can have it turned on for over 30 minutes before you run out of prayer. Secondly, if you're using moonlight moths near the crab, you can restore prayer points up to 4 players including yourself. The other people crabbing do need to have accept 8 turned on to get the prayer points as well, but if they do, not only do you restore your own prayer, but you can help other noobs out as well. And speaking of noobs, this is more of a beginner tip. Most people already know about this, but if this ever happened to you, where you start planning your PVM trip, you set up your inventory, you take out your gear, your potions, and then oopsie daisy, you click on bank inventory button, and now you have to start all over again. Well, if you go to your bank settings menu at the top right corner, you can disable inventory and gear button completely, so they don't even show up in your bank at all. On top of that, you can disable the bank tutorial button that shows up right next to the bank close button. If anything, this is really useful on mobile, especially if you're like me and you have fat fingers, which means, you know, you keep misclicking all the freaking time. Okay, let's get back to the game itself. This is a pretty obvious one, but as someone who just started a new secret Iron Man account that I'm not gonna tell you about, there is a magic shop in Dal de Clan that sells cosmic and nature runes. No longer I have to hassle Ali in Al-Qarid for those runes or even go to the mage arena in Wilderness. It has a stock of 30 nature and cosmic runes, and literally nobody comes here. It's a really good alternative option for early Iron Man accounts. Also, there is a huge number of imp spawns in Kastori basement. If you climb down the ladder over here, there are 4 imps trapped inside that will never leave. Now you can do a couple of things here. Firstly, getting the 4 beads for imp catcher quest in case you missed it. Secondly, catching them for imp in a box hunter training method. I talked about this item a lot in my videos and how useful it is, because essentially you can deposit your items from anywhere on the map. The downside always was catching these imps, which has now been made much easier. Also, when it comes to hunting them, you get approximately 75,000 hunter experience per hour, and you know, that does add up over time. And finally, you can get the imp scroll much faster now. Since it's a 1 in a 5,000 drop and it's quite extensive grind, it is much better to have imps clumped up in one place rather than spread out in the overworld map where they can teleport away. Also, speaking of teleports, Jagex added a new NPC with the Varlamore 3 update called the Mountain Guide. And this guide takes you straight from Quetzalcoatl Gorge to Auburn. I use this NPC a lot when I did my farming runs because they also added a new tree patch right next to the teleport, and you know, it was just a fast way to get here. In fact, Jagex had multiple new farming patches with this update. There's a Galquat, flower and fruit tree patch in Kastori, there's a normal tree patch in Auburn, and they have a very fast and easy access. So it's definitely advisable to add them into your farming runs going forward because you get approximately 17% more experience by using these patches. And for the Kastori patch, just use your pendant of 80s after you activate this statue over here and it teleports you right next to the village. When it comes to the fletching minigame itself, actually, you know what, I'm making an extensive guide on it as we speak right now, and I did get 99 fletching doing this activity, but that's for an entire video on its own, so if you want to see that, make sure you subscribe to get that notification. But I did get tons of these bales of flax, which give 25 each, and I think for the first time in Runescape's history, the Candarin medium diary finally has an use. You see, if you get the flax spool and bales of flax, the Candarin medium diary reward allows you to spin it 33% faster. Since you never have to bank with the spool, you can stay here basically infinitely. I will tell you, if this was 2007, a 12-year-old me would be screaming in excitement right now. I mean, there is definitely use for these methods. If you're an Ironman, you can even use the lunar spell called Spin Flax. Technically, you can still do the infinite method. Just open up one bale of flax, spin them into bowstrings using the lunar spell, and put them straight into the spool. This allows you to do other activities at the same time, like training agility while getting roughly 90,000 magic and crafting experience per hour. And after you turn those bowstrings strings into bows, you even get the money back that you spent on runes. Okay, we have a few more to go and I love this one. I said it before in a video, but it always surprises players when I tell them that you can turn your leftover spirit seeds for a hard seed pack at the Farmer's Guild. Just talk to Jane and you get tons of amazing value out of this. So please, keep picking up your spirit seeds during PvM grinds even if you already have the spirit trees everywhere, because you get approximately 100,000 GP for every single seed you pick up, despite the item itself being untradeable. Oh, and one more thing before I call it. If you're planning to do the Elite Falador Diary, one of the most tedious tasks is getting the rank 1300 to buy the white armor plate body and plate legs. Previously, you had to go to Taverley Dungeon, put down a cannon and spend approximately 3 hours hunting this down one by one. But after Wildcat Sleeps came out, the Elite Black Knights now give you 6 points per 1 KC instead of 1 point in Taverley Dungeon. And there is a spot right next to the entrance that has 6 warriors without any mages or rangers right next to each other. Since this is a multi-combat zone, you can use ancient spells here. Or better yet, some players are using Serp Helm with a blowpipe to just venom them as a more chill method. Since you get 6 points per 1 KC, this grind will take you like an hour at max, and it's so much faster now than it used to be. The only downside is that occasionally they will swap prayers if you don't use the venom method, so you do need to bring 2 combat styles to make up for it. But if you have Wild Gothic Sleeps completed and you want to complete this Elite Diary task faster, this place is much better than Taverley Dungeon. And finally, to end the video, this 3 million GP wand is currently one of the best budget magic weapons in the game. Yes, you heard that right. The Dragon Hunter wand is currently 3 million GP and it has so many uses in the game. First of all, Jagex buffed the drop rate by quite a lot. It's a 1 out of 105 at the moment, so if you're an Iron Man, the grind shouldn't take that long. Secondly, you can cast ancient spells on it, which is really good if you're doing bursting tasks for Slayer. Since it has a 10% magic strength bonus, that amplifies your damage even more compared to something like Ancient Scepter that has only 5% magic strength bonus. You can even bring it to something like Rune Dragons, since it's a one-handed weapon and actually has better DPS than something like a Fang, depending on your gear. It's also very good if you're learning Chambers of Zerek, since Olm Mage Hand got a weakness buff. You can even use it on layouts like Vespula and Ice Demon for fire elemental weakness. All of them work excellent with the Dragon Hunter wand. And honestly, I've seen even people use it at Gemstone Crab to AFK their magic training. Like I said, it's a very versatile weapon. Overall, it's a nice budget option to have when doing magic combat. The 3 million GP cost is what really won me over. If I buy this golden potion for 55k, I can then walk over to Bob here and turn that into 2 doses potion. And if I put that into price checker, it's like magic because it now costs 87,000. Now, that doesn't mean I just made actual profit. It just means that's how the potion is valued by the game. If you try to sell it, you actually lose a little bit of money because the real price is much lower than what it showcases in the price checker. However, if you walk over to your death coffer and sacrifice those 2 potions with 2 doses, you get 30,000 extra value out of it. So I spent 55k and I got 87k value back. I'm currently doing a lot of PvM and something like this is so valuable to have because unfortunately I'm not good at the game and I blank a lot, so saving about 30% from my death fees comes a long way. I ended up buying around 10 million GP worth of coding potions, and after I put all of them in the death coffer, I got 17.5 million GP back, which should cover my fees for a very long time. It is definitely worth a try if you love doing PvM or any dangerous activities. Also, if you're an Iron Man, you can come here again and this time sacrifice your holiday items for some extra value, especially things like party hats and Christmas crackers, otherwise they just sit in your bank collecting dust. Let's talk about this interesting spell in our KS spellbook that has many different uses. It's called Vile Vigour and it turns all your prayer into run energy. It has many different uses, most notably if you're doing CMI runecrafting and you don't have stamina potions. How it works is pretty simple. You still need to be on Lunar Spellbook for most of the time because that's how you fix your pouches and teleport to the altar. But you can usually get 2 trips to the altar before your run energy depletes, then use Spellbook Swap to Arceus, and while next to the altar, it drains all your prayer points into 100 run energy. Then you use the altar to restore your prayer, and this basically means you never have to use any staminas while doing this training method. You already get the runes from runecrafting anyways, so you don't need to do anything extra extra here. Another use for this is bossing. For example, if you're doing full Varrock at Giant Mole, you don't want to restore your hit points because of the Barrows Armor set. What you can do is go to Varrock's Enclave, get the runes for Vile Vigour and restore your prayer at the altar nearby. Then cast a spell to get your run energy back, and then use the altar again to restore prayer. This way you still stay 1 hit points for Giant Mole and you can just go back and continue hunting down the boss. As you can see, there is a pattern here, right? It's really good to use when you're near prayer altars. Saves you a little bit of supplies and hassle. Or if we're talking about raids, I've seen people use it plenty of times in prep runs during Chambers of Xeric, because oftentimes during a Olm, you end up losing all your run energy while still having some prayer. And you know, this can help you stay there for longer. Really good for Ironman accounts who have limited supplies of staminas and those clutch situations where you're out of supplies at the end of your kill. I also like to use Vile Vigour on my Hunter Rumors task, because I don't really need prayer during Rumors, and having 100% run energy during something like Herblore is always nice to have. Oh, and since we're already on the topic of prayer, here's an extra small little nugget. If you want almost no prayer drain but still care about stat boost, you should use the 5% increase in strength and attack prayers. It works really well with something like full Varrock, like I showcased before, where accuracy and strength are amplified. It drains 1 prayer point every 36 seconds, so you just get a small buff with no downside. Really good if you have a few prayer points left over and want to squeeze a little bit of extra damage. Number 4. Did you know that clan ownership is automatically transferred to deputy owner if the current owner doesn't log in for 90 days? Also, if there are multiple members with the same rank, the ownership is given to member who has been part of the clan the longest. So if your clan leader gets banned or just quits the game, the 90-day process immediately starts, and once it's done, the ownership automatically goes over to second in rank. Also, by the way, I have a clan chat called Crebus FC, and unfortunately I play this game like 10 hours a day, so if you want to come say hi, everyone is more than welcome to join us. Number 5. If you're an Ironman doing Tempoross and you don't have Dragon Harpoon or higher, you should use your bare hands instead of normal harpoon if you have the fishing part of Barbarian training completed. It gives strength experience and is the same speed as normal harpoon, so there is really no reason not to use it as you gain extra benefit with no downsides. If you're a new player coming to Tempoross, by the time you're finished here, you will easily have at least like level 50 to 60 with 0 time spent on training. Also, here's an extra little tip because I love you. If the colossal wave is coming and you know you're not gonna make it, you can drop your items on the ground because the wave doesn't clear out dropped items. It doesn't really help with the inventory of fishes you have, but it still saves you some precious seconds. And as someone who is currently going for 99 fishing for my Maxscape, the fish barrel from Tempoross is just an absolutely goated item for something like Garam ones, where I can just AFK for 3 minutes without any interruptions. Number 6. If you want an alternative option to prayer potions, you can catch moonlight moths and use a meat on them to turn 2 doses. This hunter method completely neglects the use for prayer potions until very late game. What you do is very simple. If you have 75 hunter level, you come to the Hunter's Guild and buy 26 butterfly jars from the shop. Then you go downstairs and catch a full inventory of moonlight moths, which gives you roughly 70,000 hunter experience per hour. You bank them and you can use any type of hunter meat to turn them into 2 doses, and that restores total of 44 prayer points. If you do this hunter method for 1 hour, it's the same as having 130 prayer potions. That means you don't have to farm Ronar seeds on your Ironman, wait for the herb patches to grow, and then turn all of them into prayer potions. It saves so much time. With this method, you can always come back and just get them immediately without any effort. I will say getting the meats is a little bit harder to obtain. Personally, I think if you do hunter rumors, you should get enough meats to last you for a long time. The rewards absolutely dump them out. The only downside is that unlike vials, once you use the moth, you'll have the butterfly jar left over in your inventory. If you want, you can bring your hunter kit with you and just put the butterfly jars inside that, so you can recycle them again once you're ready to make new potions. These are massive on group Ironman accounts. If you all stay next to each other, it multiplies the effect and it becomes even better than prayer potions. Because if one player uses the moth, it restores prayer up to 4 people, including yourself. Number 7. Here's a fast one. Firstly, if there's a reason you're not receiving any specific loot scrolls, it might be because you have one in your death coffer and you just forgot to pull it out. On top of that, to make sure you don't lose any glue scrolls in the future, you can use an East Floor Spade instead of regular spade. It's a holiday item sold by Diango in Trainer Village and anyone can get it, even players in free-to-play. When used in the wilderness where most players lose their glue scrolls, unlike a regular spade, it won't be protected over any item item, and instead the carrot spade will be deleted on death. If you're grinding up beginner clues, always have this Charlie inventory set up for fastest completion time. 1 iron ore, 1 raw trout, 1 cooked pike, 1 leather chaps, and 1 raw herring. You can buy the iron dagger he requires from the shop nearby, you can cook the raw trout at a range inside the house next door, and you can buy the leather body from the shop next to the weapons shop. Then you restock each item as needed for the next time you bank, and you never have to worry about this slowing you down. Okay, we have 3 more to go, and this is number 8. I think this is my all-time favorite tip to save some time. Have you ever been in a situation where you don't know what gear to use for certain bosses? There is a very simple solution to get the maximum DPS for any boss you go to, and it's a site called Gearscape. If you go under the best setup tab, you can import your own bank from Runelite into this calculator, and it showcases the best gear you can use for any boss in the game. So for example, if I want to go hunt down Leviathan and I don't know what type of gear is best for me, I just import my bank into the calculator, tell it to only use the gear that I already own, and tell it to find me the best possible setup for the boss. It takes only like few minutes and it will save you hours once you start doing PVM. Also, if you just want to check your DPS and nothing else, the DPS calculator really puts into perspective how important levels are over your gear. There is this classic picture going around where 99 magic with inferior gear is actually better than 90 magic with max gear. Just getting those extra 9 magic levels will increase your DPS so much more than your gear is ever going to do. So if you're wondering what to do with your money, always invest into leveling up rather than buying the best gear. And if you do want to find out the best gear, just import your bank into the calculator. Number 9. Since we're already on the topic of gaining fast levels, I think a very underrated training method is pest control. People oftentimes come here for full void setups, but it also offers up to 200,000 experience per hour under right conditions. Few years ago, Jagex updated the combat achievement rewards. You now gain extra points based on what tier of combat achievements you have completed. If you've done the hard combat achievements, you can get 8 pest control points per a single game. If you convert that into experience, you can get roughly 4,000 combat experience per a single game that takes few minutes to complete. On top of that, you also get good experience while playing the game, and if the average round lasts a little bit over 2 minutes, you can get over 200 pest control points per hour. The secret strategy is that you get 10% more combat experience from points if you spend more of them at once. So spending 100 points with one click showcases the extra experience boost you get, which comes to roughly 60,000 experience depending on your levels. So to put all of that together, you get roughly 60,000 experience an hour just playing the minigame. You also get about 130,000 experience for spending all the points, and that comes to roughly 190,000 combat experience per hour playing this minigame. Now, like I said, it does scale with levels. I am max combat, so I also get a little bit more. But let's say your stats are around 80 to 85 levels. You will get roughly 25k less experience per hour, but that is still so much better than most training methods. If you want some variety to your normal training methods like sand crabs or nightmare zone, this is an alternative method that requires a little bit more effort but gives 3 times more experience per hour. And finally, number 10, let's go from an active training method to complete opposite. You can get 9 minutes of AFK fishing training for a decent experience per hour. All you have to do is come here to Wilderness Resource Area and catch some dark crabs. The fishing spot never moves, and if you have a fishing barrel from Tempoross like I mentioned before, you can catch 54 dark crabs without moving once. Completing the Wilderness Diaries also increases your catch rate, which means more experience and money per hour. The reason you can stay here for longer periods of time is because Biles here can note the fish for you, meaning you technically never have to leave this place. I would say you will never lose your fishing barrel if you die here, and I wouldn't recommend bringing anything else with you. I just bring a lobster cage, some dark fishing bait, a little bit of money to note my items, and a fishing barrel for more AFK time. I click on the spot and come back 9 minutes later. I did it for a few hours and I didn't see a single PK here, but if you do die, you can just come back here again and continue where you left off. Few things to keep in mind. Consider enabling your PK skull prevention so there is 0 chance you get skulled. Also, if you want to bank instead of noting them at piles, you can just bring the 54 dark fishing bait, and after you get everything filled up, you can just run to Edgefield, bank them, and then come back. On average, you should make about 400,000 GP hour if you never die, and considering you get 9 minutes of AFK, this is absolute perfection for someone like me who wants to play other games while also training some fishing levels. If you want a little bit of extra money, you can also equip Rada's Blessing to have that extra chance to catch double the fish. And finally, if you want to make sure you never lose your glue scrolls while catching fish, you can buy the glue box from Last Man Standing and you can store the glue inside it while catching fish. That way you will keep the glue even if a big gear gets to you. Did you know that using fire arrows instead of normal arrows changes the model of your enemy? Albeit it only works on mummies, but it does set them on fire. Or the fact that you can change the color of your cat by using a bucket of milk on it. I love this kind of stuff, and I truly believe this is what makes old school RuneScape so special. Number 1, you should really buy this item whenever you have leftover money. Not to get membership, but to make profit. I get asked this a lot. Grievous, I'm gonna take a break for 6 months, but I will come back at some point. Is there an item I should invest all my money in? The answer is bonds. It's always bonds because they always go up even when they go down. For example, I bought a bunch of bonds a few months ago for 12.8 million GP each, and their price is already over 15 million GP. All of this effort took me like 20 minutes to set up, and I've already made over 100 million GP profit. I genuinely believe that by the end of 2025, bonds will be over 20 million GP, and it's the only item in the game that will continue to grow no matter what. So if you want an easy investment strategy with an almost guaranteed payoff and you don't have to worry about time, go for bonds. But if you're not interested in merching, there are plenty of skills that are now also profitable. For example, Herblore is incredibly good for money making after being a lost leader for many years. After Varlamore Part 2 came out, Jagex released 2 items into the game that made Herblore more enjoyable. One of them is the prescription goggles and the other one is Alchemist Amulet. Combine them together and you can now make tons of profit from Herblore. If you don't know, the prescription goggles have a 10% chance to save you a secondary ingredient. So for example, if you're making Saradomin brews, you save 1 bird nest for every 10 brews you make. And currently those are 7k each. The other one is Alchemist Amulet, and it has a 15% chance to add extra dose when you're making potions. It took me roughly 6 hours to get both of these items in the Mastering Mixology minigame, and now it's time to put them together so I can demonstrate how much money I make per one inventory. As you can see, I'm planning to make prayer regeneration potions right now, and my entire inventory costs 916k GP. The reason I'm making these potions is because the secondary ingredient Aldarium is 60k each, and these prescription goggles have a chance to save the ingredient. On top of that, sometimes my prayer regeneration potion turns into 4 doses, which adds extra 10k profit to my yield. So after everything is said and done, my 916k turns into a little bit over 1 million GP. That means with just one single inventory, I made 90k profit. And the best part is, this also gives you quite good Herblore experience. You can get upwards of 300k experience an hour doing this method and up to 6 million GP hour if you can constantly keep buying the ingredients. The same inventory got me another 150k profit. It's kinda nuts if you think about it. Herblore has never been more profitable than it is right now, and I highly recommend you give this a try if you have the willpower to play Mastering Mixology for 6 hours. But enough about merching and making money with skilling, let's talk about Blighted Supplies. I saw this thread on Reddit that said you can practice Colosseum in PvP worlds because the lobby is also a safe zone, and it essentially cuts your losses in half because items like Super Restore cost 11k while Blighted Super Restore cost only 5k. With the recent changes to rewards in Castle Wars and the Wilderness Agility course, they now print out a lot of Blighted Supplies, and the price of these items has never been lower. This is a great opportunity to take advantage of. Blighted Supplies work really good in instance activities like fight caves, Squirrels, Kraken, and many other bosses. The main downside of this method is that you have to use them in PvP worlds, and the concern is that if I, for example, come out of my fight caves attempt after I take down Chad, I will get PK'd. Reality is much different. There's like 100 players in PvP worlds and they're mostly gathered around GE. I spent 2 hours just spectating around fight caves looking to see if somebody comes and hunts me down, but there was nobody. I saw literally 0 people. The advantage here is that people don't know if you're in an instance, therefore they don't know if anyone is even doing the content. So as a PKer, there's no reason to stick around. Even in cases like Squirrels, after you're done with your trip, you can just teleport to safety, hop to a normal world after you resupplied and hop back to PvP world, then immediately enter the instance and bam, you can take advantage of Blighted Supplies again. I'm gonna be honest, the benefit isn't that massive at first, but it does add up over time. For example, this would be your average medium level inventory setup for doing fight caves. It costs over 200k per attempt, but But then you look over the Blighted version and that cost only 75k per attempt. It might not be a lot if you do something once, but if you're doing these instant bosses that require a lot of supplies like Salra or Vorkat, it's gonna save you millions of GP across the hours if you're willing to take the small risk. Or, you know, maybe this is just Crabbs trying to lure you into PvP worlds. Who knows? In the last episode, I talked about how cheap wines could be an alternative way for food in an early game because they heal 16 hit points and only cost 100 GP. But there's also an alternative for potions at very early levels. One of the things I struggled on my early Ironman was finding ranging potions. There just wasn't a good way to boost my ranging level unless I go so out of my way to get the potions. But there's another option that costs 1 GP and it gives a +4 boost to your ranging level. All you have to do is come here to Shazy and Bob and buy an item called Lizard Kicker. It's definitely on par with some of the other early game boosts like the Excalibur Sword giving you +8 defense or the Combat Potion giving you +7 attack and strength. So if you need a quick boost for ranging skill, you can buy this Lizard Kicker right here. Okay, next trick is something I didn't first believe, but it turns out to be true. Apparently the cow home teleport animation can be used as a safe spot by other players. It acts like a 3x3 barrier in front of the NPCs, and the only way it works is if one of the players is actively casting the home teleport animation over and over again. The cow home teleport animation is available to all players, and you can just right click your home teleport and toggle the Runefest animation to activate it. It is disabled in PvP, so you can't safe spot people behind the cow. But I think there could be some use for this against NPCs that have smaller hitboxes and are not bosses. Okay, let's do a quick fire round where I list off 11 interesting facts and trivia in less than 5 minutes. Let's start with farming. If you manage to click on the farming patch, your allotment item and the compost bin on the same game cycle, the player will continue to farm the watermelon patch while simultaneously filling out the compost bin. This will allow you to do 2 things at once without wasting any time. While we're on the topic of farming secondaries, half a coconut is always valued half the price of a full coconut, no matter what. This is an automatic change that happens every time the price of coconut goes up or down. You cut it in half and you also get half the price. Amulet of Nature is an item that can only be traded from one person to another, and its only purpose is to track one single farming patch just in case it gets diseased. It has an interesting way to make it. First, you need to use magic roots on a spinning wheel to make magic string. Then you have to attach the amulet to the string and enchant it to make the Amulet of Nature. And yes, the amulet is pretty useless, but these small nuggets are always the ones that nobody thinks about. Next one, there is an item called burnt pita bread that's in the game's cache, but nobody can obtain it. The reason there is 0 items in the game is because you stop burning the pita bread at level 38 cooking, but you can't actually cook the item until you're 58 cooking. Therefore, you need to lower your cooking level by more than 20 levels to even have a chance to burn it. Players have tried multitude of different methods to get burnt pita bread, like using disease debuffs or the cold weather to lower your levels, but what makes this impossible is that you need to use cooking range to get it in the first place, and there is no way to get your cooking level lowered for more than 20 levels. And it also was confirmed by Mod Ash that yes, while the item does technically exist in theory, it is impossible to get it in old school RuneScape. Next one, for many years people thought that Falador doesn't have a prayer altar, but this all changed when Jagex decided to add Zamorak prayer altar on the second basement floor in the party room where the museum is. It's also kind of funny that it's a Zamorak altar in the city of Saratomin. Next one, the Dragon Full Helm initially was supposed to be a reward from Fremeni Kyle's quest. You would get 2 pieces, the left side and the right side, by uniting Yetiso and Natisnot together, and you can combine these both to make the Dragon Full Helm. However, just a few months before the quest release in 2007, they changed the reward to Helm of Natisnot, and the Dragon Full Helm was added 4 months later as a very rare drop from Mithril Dragons. It used to have a completely different model, and honestly, this older version of the helmet actually looks quite amazing, and I do wish we had a way to get this in the game in some ways. This is the kind of art design I personally like the most. And finally, there's a player who broke the construction housing system called V3. You can enter his POH and you're unable to leave unless you have your own teleport out. There is no exit portal and the rooms are closed off. He even tries to sell you a teleport tab for insane price up. This player is a smart businessman and I absolutely love this bug in the game. Did you know that Barrows products can give you prayer experience after taking them down? You see, they are classified as spectrals, so that would mean a salve amulet works on them, right? Well, no. But the other Another item that does work on them is the Ectoplasmator, and this item gives you prayer experience every time you take down a Spectral. It's not a lot, you get like 120 prayer experience per one Barrows KC, but it does add up over time, and if you're planning to green log Barrows anyways, you might as well get like extra 100k prayer experience for doing nothing. The Ectoplasmator itself can be purchased from Soul Wars, and it takes you like 1 hour to get it. You do unlock a collection log item, and it's also good to take with you whenever you're doing Slayer, because things like Aberrant Spectres, Spiritual Mages, Revenants, and even the Muspa can give you free prayer experience. And all you have to do is just have this item in your inventory. Number 2. Chaos Elemental is the only pet you can take with you to the Fishing Trawler minigame. I tried with multiple different pets and it always says the same thing. You can't take your companion with you. But when you go in with the Chaos Elemental pet, it allows you to board the minigame for some reason. Also, number 3. While we're at the Fishing Trawler minigame, the Angler's outfit is giga useless and you shouldn't get it. The reason for this is because it saves you roughly about 250k fishing experience when you get 99 fishing. But the time it takes you to get the outfit, which is roughly 5 hours, you might as well just go for 250k fishing experience and get the same outcome. The only reason to get the outfit is because it's a hard requirement for a Master Clue step and hard combat achievement. So the next time you want to go suffer 5 or 6 hours in the Fishing Trawler minigame, you might as well just take that time to relax and get some experience instead. The Dragon Hunter Lance boosts your spell damage. This melee weapon deals 25% more damage with spells against dragon creatures, because it's coded the same way as Dragon Hunter Wand. In fact, all the Dragon Hunter weapons work with spell damage boost. You gain extra damage against draconic creatures if you have any of these equipped. In this clip you can see that my max hit with Water Strike is 12, but if I equip the Dragon Hunter Lance or Crossbow, my max hit turns into 14. Number 5. Wormling Bones can be turned into Baby Dragon Bone Meal at the Ecto Fountains, and this increases your base prayer experience from 84 to 120 experience per bone meal. So if you have Wormling Bones and you want to squeeze some extra experience out of that, you might as well bring them here and it turns into better type of bones instead. Number 6. You can use Trident in the Barbarian Assault minigame and it counts as every spell, so you never get penalty for points. It doesn't matter what the goal is inside the minigame, you will always deal damage. And this works also on items like the Twin Flame Staff. As you can see in this clip, the goal is fire spells, but I'm using earth spells and I still deal damage. The Twin Flame Staff works excellent in this minigame and it's definitely worth taking if you don't have good ranged gear. The fact that you never get penalty for missing attacks is also really good. Number 7. Just like any ornament item in the game, the Raging Echo ornament kit also saves you gravestone fees. For example, in this case you can see that my gravestone fee is over 400k GP, but if I attach the Virtus Robe ornament kit to my robes, the fee goes down to 200k. And this stays with you forever, because no matter what, you will protect your Virtus Robes always. A great way to save money if you plan to blank a lot. Number 8. At the current rate, the Brio Staff saves you approximately 7 GP per single high alchemy, because it's a 1 in 15 chance to save you a nature rune. That means you need to high alch approximately 1.7 million times to make up for the cost of the staff itself. And 1.7 million high alchemy cost gives you approximately 110 million magic experience. Oh, and also, fun fact, if you want to see more of these fun fact videos, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on the next video. Thank you very much. Number 9. Every dagger from bronze to rune has +1 magic accuracy attached to the melee weapon. This is because initially in RuneScape Classic, daggers were supposed to be magic weapons, but they were changed in RuneScape 2 to become melee weapons, and now, almost 25 years later, they still retain their +1 magic accuracy, and it's a reminder of the good times. Number 10. If we're already on the topic of RuneScape Classic, the Rune Spear used to be a ranged weapon back in the day, and it was an incredibly rare drop that went up to 1 in a million chance. When you throw the Rune Spear towards your target, you will lose it immediately and you can't return it back. This made it one of the most rarest and valuable items in RuneScape Classic. Number 11. You can't note cabbages in the Falador farming patch with the tool Leprechaun because there is a farming field right next to it, and people use this as a moneymaker to gain infinite amount of cabbages. So Jagex removed that option and now you just get a funny little dialogue with the tool Leprechaun when you try to know cabbages. Funnily enough, I tried the same trick in Briftina's cabbage field and it works here, because I guess if you already have access to the city, you don't need to collect cabbages for money anyways. Number 12. If you make a new account at level 3 and want to make some really fast money with no skills and no effort, you can come to World 3 or 4, deep wilderness near the Chaos Altar, and just pick up the loot that people leave on the ground. Majority of your profit comes from picking up bolts because players just don't use Ava's assembler here, and let me tell you, there is some nice profit to be made here. In less than 1 minute I made 150k profit by just picking up all this trash, and sometimes people even leave some of the loot they get from PKing on the ground. So you can easily rake up to like 4 million GP a hour here if you come at the right time. Opal bolts especially are currently 3k each, and people who PvP here usually don't care about this, so you can just yoink them to yourself. It's a simple moneymaker that can give you the boost you need when starting off a new account. Number 13. There's a ball boot in the bandit camp in the desert that you can't use if you're wearing any Saradomin items. The bandits will just say they don't like your attire, but as soon as you take the Saradomin items off, you can use the ball boot again. Number 14. Pets were originally going to have dialogue they would shout at random intervals. For some reason they all had this baby dog going on for them, and Jagex just decided to remove the option, but you can still have a dialogue in the chat with your pets. Number 15. You can make a group of squirrels follow you around in Vice by feeding them acorns. This will allow you to take over the world with your army of squirrels. For some reason you can only do this with the white squirrels in Vice City, because I tried it with the brown squirrels in Kurend and nothing interesting happens, which once again proves that Jagex is racist. Number 16. The Grand Exchange poll passed with only 1.2% extra votes. At the time the threshold was 75% and players could see the result live, and up until the last day it was almost about to fail because some people really didn't want the GE in the game. However, in the last hours people pulled through, and now we have this magnificent trading center in our game. Number 17. Old School Runescape had more quests come out in 2024 than any other year in the game. The only time we had more quests released was in the original Runescape 2 years. For example, even though in 2024 we got 12 new quests, in 2005 we got 29 new quests in a single year, meaning we got a new quest on average every 2 weeks. Jagex recently polled the idea to add more quests into future patches of Varlamore, and it got almost 90% yes votes, meaning we're likely going to continue seeing more quests this year. Number 18. In the original RuneScape there was planned to have life, illusion, reality and time runes, kinda like infinity stones. They were supposed to have a completely different effect to your normal runes. For example, the life rune was supposed to be opposite of death rune, and initially the Cower brothers wanted to bring summoning and necromancy into RuneScape Classic, but due to the limits of the game engine 25 years ago, it never got implemented. Number 19. There's a villager in Canifis that will tell you a bunch of fun facts about onions if you're wearing the Ring of Karas. The dude really loves the onions for some reason, and I went through his dialogue and he just keeps yapping about them over and over again. He even admits that despite being a werewolf, he loves the smell of frying onions. This guy here has total of 10 different dialogue options just about onions. Number 20. Back in 2006, Jagex accidentally changed the Black Shield H2 High Alchemy price from 979 to 9795. It was probably just a typo, and they accidentally added an extra number value, which made it go from 1k each to 10k each. It stayed that way, 10 times as high as the other Black Shields, until it was fixed in-game almost 10 years later. It did however retain the price of almost 10k coins in the GE despite its high alchemy value being much lower, because players thought for years this was the actual price. Once the wiki guys figured out what was going on with the item, the value dropped immediately overnight, and now it stays at 1k each like it's supposed to. Number 21. The French chat is shared between Old School Runescape and Runescape 3. So if somebody sends you this massive DM proclaiming to be from Jagex or just in general trying to promote something, know that it most likely came from Runescape 3 private chat, where messages sent can be much longer than Old School Runescape. Number 22. The closest bank to a teleport is Hallowed Sepulchre Bank at just 3 tiles away from your destination, but due to how expensive the upkeep is because of Hallowed Crystal Shards, people tend to not use this bank that much. But if you do want the fastest possible banking in the game, this is the best solution. Number 23. There is a 1 in 125 chance to get a frozen cash box from a frozen cash box. So technically there exists a world where you just keep getting frozen cash boxes forever after you open the first one up, and you end in this infinite loop of frozen cash boxes until you've gone mad. Number 24. World 1 at Varrock General Store is oftentimes stuffed with cheap resources like emeralds, sapphires, bronze and iron bars, and you could buy them and use them for experience or sell them for profit. Usually rich players sell these for free-to-play players to use and make some fast money so they can buy themselves a bond. For example, here the price of bronze bars are 2 GP each, and if you sell them back at GE, you get almost 3k profit per inventory, which is honestly not bad for a free-to-play moneymaker. And number 25. The lowest amount of experience you can get in the game is by hitting a 4 on an outlaw next to the Grand Exchange. This is because outlaws have a weird thing of giving you minus 97.5% combat experience multiplier, so you get almost 1 out of 40 the normal experience you would otherwise get. So if you get exactly a 4 hit on the outlaw, you get 0.1 combat experience for it, and that is the lowest possible amount you can get in the entire game. It just so happens that the average price of one crystal impling currently is about 150k each if you also count in the elite clues you get from here. And there's a new method that allows you to catch them much faster than just running around in circles. Let me explain you the methods for this moneymaker on this beautiful illustrated painting. The biggest mistake and what most players do is run a full circle around Prifddinas and World Hop. This gets you about 10 to 15 crystal implings per hour. Mostly you just lose a lot of time because the east side of Prifddinas doesn't have that many spawns. But if you stay at this spot near Magic Store, there are 5 crystal impling spawns in your view radius, especially if you zoom out. So it's much more efficient to just stay on this tile and world hop until one of those spawns shows up on your minimap. You can pretty much double your crystal implings per hour up to around 20 if you're lucky. But there is even a better method. You see, the problem with world hopping while staying in a single place is that you soon get forced logged out because you world hop too much. Also, there are constantly crystal implings just out of your view radius because you stay in one place, so you just miss a lot of them while hopping worlds. What I started doing is this crescent motion of just doing one side of Prifddinas. I would run to this well over here next to the bank. This is my starting point. Then I would world hop, do a 90-degree turn over here and run to the gladiator pits and use that pathing to go back and forth. At my best hour, I got up to 29 crystal implings. The reason is that you now also add a couple of more spawns to your trajectory rather than just staying static. The well north of Prifddinas near the bank allows me to catch crystal implings from these spawns that have wandered off into my area. It also makes sure I get this spawn because that one tends to also wander off. On the other side, I also have access to 3 more spawns now. This means on average, despite spending extra 30 to 40 seconds per world, my chances of seeing a crystal impling is just way higher than standing in one place or doing full circles around the city. Another option I really enjoyed was fishing sacred eels. I see a lot of people coming here with a knife and immediately turning them into Solra scales, but there is actually a slightly better option. Once your fishing barrel and your inventory is full, you can just bank them at the deposit box few tiles away. Whenever you're done with your fishing training, you should use this item called Chef's Delight. You see, if you have 99 cooking, you can get a +5 boost with the Chef's Delight, which brings your cooking level to 104. On average, you get an extra Solra scale every time you cut your fish, and that is roughly 12.5% more scales than you would get normally. This also means you don't have to do them immediately. The sacred eels can just stay in your bank and you can do them whenever you run out of scales or whenever the price of scales goes up. I find this way not only more profitable and giving more yield, but the fishing part is also much more AFK because the fishing barrel and the deposit box being few tiles away. Number 9. This is a bit of an odd one, but I actually found this quite useful. Costume Needle. You can obtain this item after the completion of Death on the Isle quest, which takes about 25 minutes to finish. The needle has one single purpose. While you have this in your inventory, you don't need thread to craft items. This might not seem like a lot, but it makes crafting much more enjoyable. For example, take black T-hide bodies. With the thread, you always had 2 leftover T-hides after finishing your inventory. Now, since you have 27 inventory spaces available, that leaves you perfectly with 9 black T-hide bodies at the end with no waste. That means you get 258 crafting experience more per inventory, and that adds up if you're doing thousands of T-hides on your way to 99 crafting. If you plan on using needles in your crafting training, you need to have this item before you start. It helps you out so much. And the final conclusion, number 10, Fletching Knife. The way to obtain this item is through Veil Totem minigame. I went mega dry here. I spent about 6 hours doing this minigame, and for the love of me, I couldn't find this knife. But luckily, there's also a shop that has dry protection and sells the knife for 350 points. Obviously, it's given that the fletching knife is really good at a fletching activity. The purpose of this knife is to save you 0.6 seconds every time you fletch an item. So not only can you fletch your minigame items faster, but even fletching unstrung bows between the totems is now much faster. And once again, repeat it with me, it all adds up. I talked about Wintertodt before, and that's because it also works on Bruma logs, which means you get the entire inventory done about 33% faster than you would with normal knife. It's an absolute must here. I wouldn't even think about doing Wintertodt before you get this knife, because it makes everything else so much faster. A 50-hour Wintertodt grind can now be reduced to 40 hours or even less, all because of this knife. Then we had the fact that you can equip it. Now, you can't fletch items in your inventory while you have it equipped, but it's actually really good during something like hunter rumors. You can set up things like pitfall traps while you have this equipped, or even example deadfall traps with boulders. All of this saves you another inventory space. Or you can just go simple. With a normal knife you can fletch up to 1800 logs per hour. With this knife that goes up to 2700 logs. If you feel like doing AFK redwood logs and you still want to gain some fletching experience, I really like turning my logs into arrow shafts. You still get some experience, but now it's 33% faster. Did you know that you can enable auto running from your settings now? In the last week's update, Jagex made a new feature where you automatically start running if your energy is at a certain threshold. So for example, I set my threshold to 10 and I eat a bite of summer pie at 0 energy. I automatically start running again because summer pies restore 10 run energy. The best threshold I found is actually 20 because that's the value you get out of a stamina potion or super energy potion. Because for example, if I set it to 1, it just does this weird flickering between walking and running, walking and running. But overall, it's a very good quality of life improvement. Or did you know that there is this nifty tool in Creator's Kit plugin that allows you to always have your camera at a 360-degree angle and slowly rotate it without having to press any buttons? For me, this was especially good while I'm draining agility because I always wanted the next obstacle to be in front of me. If you want to try it out yourself, firstly you need to download the Creator's Kit plugin on Runelite. Then you go to settings and scroll down until you see the Oculus Orb section. There you need to make sure your rotate horizontal speed is set at 1 and you have to assign a hotkey to start rotating. For me that key is 2, so whenever I press 2 it slowly starts to do a 360-degree rotation. And it takes roughly about 45 seconds to do the full rotation, which is also 1 lap of RT agility course. It's definitely something that's not for everyone, but it did make my agility grind a little bit easier. I must say, I love this kind of small little fun facts that can either improve your gameplay or it's just a nice thing to know about. So for the next 10 or so minutes, let me show you what I found out, and there might be some cool RuneScape facts that you didn't even know about. And we're starting off with collection log. You see, about 1 month ago, a user named Logical Breadfruit made a post on Reddit that had the entire list of monsters and how long it takes to fill their collection logs. The longest post for expected completion KC in this game is Corporeal Beast, that comes in at roughly 500 hours of gameplay, and that is a lot. On the opposite side, the shortest post to green log was the Dagana Kings, which comes to roughly 5 hours of each gameplay. Now do keep in mind, these do not include pet drops, and these numbers are rough averages. Honestly, it all depends on your gear, your stats, your prayers, potions, and much more. Most importantly, you could always go dry or maybe even get lucky, and at the end of the day, that's the beauty of old school RuneScape. Some interesting stats that OP brought out is things like Corrupted Gauntlet, which on average takes roughly 500 KC to complete, but the expected completion time also counts in the 6 armor seeds you need to get the full crystal armor. Or for example, the Nightmare boss, where the expected completion KC considers the players to get 3 Nightmare staffs, because the assumption is that for 3 orbs you also need 3 staff, aka going the Iron Man route. And that also significantly increases your kill count, which ends up being 3726 KC for full completion. Again, I just want to emphasize that these are just expected numbers, and in reality there are many things that can go different differently. In fact, let's take a random example and say we are looking into completing Abyssal Sire drop table. We need all 3 bludgeon pieces, the Abyssal Dagger, Abyssal Whip, and the Abyssal Head, which roughly takes you 800 KC to get all drops. Now the chances that you actually completed on 800 KC is about 63%. That also tells us that there is a 1 in a 6 chance that you might go twice over the expected kill count and not even complete Abyssal Sire by 1600 KC. And this gets even more surreal. If you pick out specific 20 bosses from this list, the chances of you going triple over your normal KC completion at least in one of those bosses is over 96%, which means at some point in your PvMing experience, you will very likely go triple kill count try at a certain boss. For example, if I say Vartorvi's expected completion time is 1600 KC, in reality, you could easily go over 5000 before you complete it, if you get unlucky. That is definitely something to look forward to. So you know what, just hope that you don't have to do 10,000 KC of Nightmare boss just to complete your log. I'll leave a link to the Reddit post down below so you can check it out yourself, and while you're down there, consider helping me out and subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out on the next video. Thank you very much. Okay, let's get back to the game and talk about crystal shards. Recently, Jagex updated them and you can get so much more now than you used to. For example, catching crystal implings can give you up to 40 crystal shards if you can find one. But there is an even better way to obtain them, and it actually has nothing to do with thriftiness. The best way to get crystal shards is through LMS. You see, it takes roughly about 10 minutes to get 12 points in this game, especially during daytime when bots are playing and there's no competition. You can swap those 12 points for crystal weapon seed. And if you come to this guy over here and talk to him, he will trade your crystal weapon seed for a crystal acorn. Then with 74 farming, you can plant them and 8 hours later you get 30 crystal shards for free, which if turned into money gives you roughly 500k GP or can be easily used in your BOFA for extra 3000 shots. It's almost like a passive income in a sense, because it takes roughly 15 minutes to do all the work and then 8 hours later you have 500k worth of crystal shards. You get like 13,000 farming experience per 1 crystal tree. So if you're already doing your dailies like birdhouse runs and collecting achievement tire rewards, this is basically the same but even better rewards. Next up, I want to show you the fastest way to get the Rocky Pet in old school RuneScape. This new method that was just discovered in 2024 is still pretty unknown, and it only requires you to have one alt account. It takes place in Trainer Market, and step number 1 is luring both of the market guards. The first guard can be lured into the wise old man's house. The second guard can be lured behind this fence over here, and he will never move away from this location. And the final step is to use your alt account to talk to Olivia in a location where she doesn't see your main account. You can just keep the chat open, that's it, once every 20 minutes, refresh the talking options, and you're good to go. Then all you have to do is set up a good camera angle. I advise you to use resizable client that allows you to move camera more freely, and once you find a sweet spot between 2 market stalls, you can just continue to click away. That's it, that's the entire method. The reason this is the fastest method is because Rocky Pet drop rate is amplified by stalls compared to every other thieving method, and since these stalls have no downtime, you can just freely click away until you get the pet. On average, it will take you roughly 16 hours to obtain Rocky. Usually you will get it even faster, and it's even better with wireless mouse, because essentially you can just click one spot and move away from your computer for like 15-20 minutes doing other things. If you ever wanted a fast killing method, this is likely one of the fastest methods in the game, and it's also super chill. The only downside is that sometimes certain NPCs will get into the same spot as you're clicking, and you will accidentally click on these NPCs. But the solution for it is to use the menu entry swapper plugin, so every nearby NPC has a right click option, so even if they're wandering through your click radius, you don't accidentally click on them. And that's it, good luck hunting your pets. Next up is a beginner friendly way to make money. If you just came off the tutorial island and you need a way to make the best money possible, your answer is always gonna be gourmet implings. You see, they are currently 6k each, because the demand for gourmet implings is at an all-time high. The best part is they only require 28 hunter to catch, and if you're a new account, that takes you only like half an hour to obtain. So let's say you come off tutorial island, you complete the natural history quiz, you get 1000 hunter experience, and you train the skill for 30 minutes and now your hunter level is 28. Yay! You have a little bit of GP at the start, like 50k, you buy a Ring of Dwelling Games necklace, few hunter supplies like Impling jars, butterfly nets and so on. You don't actually need to complete Lost City quest to access Puro Puro, but it does help. The reason for this is because there are wheat fields across the game and every 15 minutes somewhere on the map these wheat fields open up an option for you to teleport to Puro Puro. The best part is that it's a fixed rotation. So for example, if I see a wheat field in Trainer Village, I know that the next one is going to be in Remington, then Varrock, and so on and so on. This fixed rotation is posted on Wiki as well, and it allows you to bypass the Lost City quest. The method itself is very simple. With the Impling plugin, I can see where the fixed spawn for gourmet Implings are, and I just continue catching them until I have a full inventory. One of them is 6k each and a full inventory is roughly 150k, which took me just few minutes to obtain. If you do this method for an entire hour, you can get up to 2 million GP profit on a brand new account that just came off the tutorial island few hours ago. The reason it's so in demand is because people like me who love to do master clues don't like to collect easy clues, and the fastest way to get easy clues is through these Implings. That's why the price is so high and likely will never crash. High-end players are always willing to pay premium prices for these Implings, so it's a very fast way for low-level accounts to earn some money. Also, as you get higher hunter levels, you can obtain higher Implings as well. Like nature Implings are almost 11k each, magpies are 35k each, and so on. It's a very simple moneymaker. Happy hunting! Oh, and since we're on the topic of hunter already, there was this cool little trick that was just found out where you can hunt 2 sunlight antelopes with a single trap if you do everything right. First, you set up the trap, lure in the first antelope, you jump over and tag the other antelope, and while doing so, you right click the jump option on trap again, and for some reason the game allows you to do this twice. So you get 2 antelopes with 1 trap, which speeds up your hunter kill task a little bit compared to the normal methods. And since we're already in Varlamore, there is this cool little Easter egg where if you stay near the docks in Aldarin while having any type of fish in your inventory, a seagull appears and literally steals it away from you. So if you go AFK here with 28 sharks, that inventory is gonna be empty at some point. Oh, and there is this nest that can be found on top of Aldarin's windmill that has some interesting options. You can put certain items into the nest, and once you hop worlds, you will receive a completely different item than you put in. So for example, if I put in raw chicken, world hop, and click on the nest again, I get cooked chicken back. If I put in runite plate legs, I will get runite bar back. Putting in adamant scimitar just gives me a cake, and so on. It almost always leads to losing money, but so far not all the items have been tested out. So there might be something interesting in this nest that players don't know about. This is the rarest obtainable item in old school RuneScape. Only 11 players in the entire game have it on their accounts. It's called the Diamond Speedrun Trophy, and to get it, you have to complete all these quests with the fastest possible time. Now, you and I have likely completed this quest many times before, but this is very different. The Diamond Speedrun times require immense strategy and effort to obtain. For example, take Ernest the Chicken, a quest that's likely been completed millions of times. The current world record for this completion is 3 minutes and 40 seconds. And to get the diamond time, you need 3 minutes and 45 seconds. So there is not a lot of wiggle room for your mistakes. But if you manage to get the diamond time on all the 15 quests and talk to Eliza in Varrock Square, you can also have the rarest obtainable item in old school RuneScape. I love this kind of fun trivia, and it seems like I'm not the only one. The old school RuneScape wiki held their annual fun fact event where they put out a single piece of trivia every day for the month of December. And this includes stuff like your very own cat making fun of your armor, especially when you have the full dragon equipped. Or if you turn a very specific variable during the Forgettable Dwarf quest to 1, then the drunken NPC turns into a wandering kebab. Absolutely amazing. These guys bring out the most obscure, random trivia I've ever seen in this game, and I'm always very happy we have the wiki guys in our community. But that did make me want to do my own list of fun facts. So for the next 15 minutes I've gathered some interesting stuff that might either help you out or is just something that's very good to know about. As always, there are timestamps in the video, so feel free to jump around and see what interests you the most. We're starting off with trivia from previous video where I talked about vampires. In the video, I said that the special attack against them is mostly useless, but few people in the comment section mentioned a very unique interaction about these NPCs. When you use the special attack on a vampire juvenile, they turn static and stop attacking temporarily. You can then use Khatik's Balance Potion on the vampire, and in return it has multiple effects that are pretty unknown to most players. One of those outcomes is that you just get prayer experience. Sometimes you even get a small reward. And by the way, you can't drink these Khatik's potions yourself, although you can make them yourself. All you need is to turn a silver bar into a silver dust, add some garlic to a normal restore potion, and then combine them together. Funnily enough, you can't make these potions in quantity. You have to manually make them one by one. There is only 3 outcomes when you use the Khatik's Balance Potion on a vampire. Number 1, it is destroyed and it gives you exactly 100 prayer experience. The second option is that they turn feral, which means you can now use all weapons against them with 100% accuracy no matter what. And the final outcome is that they turn into humans, say thank you, and give you a small reward that's usually some low level items. I try to turn as many of them into humans as possible just to see what kind of rewards they would give. It does seem not many people come here, and it's mostly just useless junk items. The best ones are like nature runes, elemental staff. I even got a few adamant axes and death runes. I'm thinking if somebody decided to make a junk account around Blighted City, this could be worth exploring, but mostly it's just some low level armor and weapons. I did find another interesting thing about them. After you turn them into humans, for some reason they try to path towards the Blighted City, but some of them just keep getting stuck behind this pond like you see over here. 2 NPCs called Liam stuck behind a pond like some freaky sci-fi show with cloning. One of those guys did manage to make it back into the city, and I was wondering if he's gonna be like a permanent resident now, but unfortunately after like 5 minutes the NPC disappears and turns back into vampire. Also, if you go to the city, you can find this blaster fragment in the rubble, and into the fragment is described the potion itself. In front of the figure, a dark creature seems to be held in a powerful spell, with the figure using the container to administer some sort of potion. So basically the game is acknowledging that this potion can indeed cure vampires. It really feels like this is the type of update that someone started working towards and then just gave up on it. Like I can see this almost being sort of a minigame in a sense. You rescue newborn baby vampires, turn them back into humans, but the rewards and clunkiness makes me think this is an unfinished product that was just left in. Honestly, there is so much lore and stories in Mauritania, and I would love to one day make an entire video about just this region. But for now, let's move on to something that might actually be useful to you. With the release of Varlamore Part 2 came tons of new items, monsters, activities and much more. One thing I haven't seen many people mention is the new best in slot early game food that you can get on the island of Aldaris. The only requirement is Children of the Sun quest, which can be done by any account and takes you roughly 5 minutes. To get to the island itself, you can use many ways. There is a fairy ring, there is a house teleport, Ketesal system, or you can just walk and use a boat like I did. After you find your way to the island, there is a winery that sells cheap wines that heal you for 16 hit points. The cheapest ones cost 100 GP and the price never goes up. So you can get a full inventory of these wines for a very affordable price. Now it has the same downside as Jago wines. It significantly lowers your attack level. But the difference is that instead of healing 11 hit points from Jago wine, this now heals 16. So when you need food for early game PvM and you're either using ranged or magic, this is probably the best option out there. It takes like 5 minutes to obtain and it's really good GP per heal ratio. The wines also have a side effect where they offer small buffs to your non-combat skills. Like some wines gives you +1 farming boost, hunter boost, herblore boost, thieving boost and so on. And unlike jugs of wine, these ones don't leave an empty jug behind, so managing your inventory is much easier. In conclusion, it's definitely something to at least give a try on your new account. Oh, by the way, I noticed almost 90% of my viewers are not subscribed to the channel, which honestly, that is absolutely crazy. So, if you want to see more content like this, consider helping me out and smashing that subscribe button. Thank you very much. Next up, let's talk about Barrows Armor. In one of my videos, I showcased that Dunstan in Perthorpe can fix your Barrows Armor just like Bob does in Lumbridge. But as it turns out, there are 2 other NPCs in the game that can also fix your armor pieces. One of them is the Dindle Merchant in Port Cassard, and the other one is the Squire in Pest Control. They both have the same prices as Bob and work on all Barrow species. That also made me wonder if these NPCs can fix your Perilous Moon armor, because we know Bob in Lumbridge can do that, despite it being very expensive. So I used my broken helmets on all 3 of the NPCs, one in Berto, one in Port Casad, and one in Pest Control, and they do work surprisingly. It's the same price to fix Perilous Moon armor on all the NPCs, so you don't really get any benefits from choosing one of them. But I think it's still cool that Jagex added these options in, and it makes me wonder if players actually use the other 3 NPCs to fix their armor instead of using Bob in Lumbridge. But okay, enough about fixing your armor sets, let's talk about bots. Currently one of the best moneymakers in old school RuneScape is botting. And by that I don't mean you should be scripting, I mean seeing what bots are currently doing and making money off that. Let me give you a good example. Blood shards used to be heavily botted in the game. In fact, it got so bad that the price of the item went from 14 million GP down to 5 million GP. But in May 2024, and I want you to remember this date because we're coming back to it again, Jaggy banned all the bots doing this activity. This meant that the bots who killed vampires and also the bots who were thieving the vampires were all gone now. And what happened to blood shards? Well, we can see the price started in 5 million GP, then in just few weeks it jumped back to 11 million GP, few months later back to 14 million GP, and it even reached 17 million GP per blood shard at some point. Now this is where you can take advantage of the supply and demand. If you timed it right and bought, let's say, I don't know, 10 blood shards for 55 million GP and sold them back few weeks later for 120, that means you made 65 million GP profit in just few minutes of your time. Now granted, it's actually a lot harder than it looks. It takes time to research items. You need to know where the bots are and how likely they are to get banned. But if you can get it right, you can make so much money with this method with very little effort. For example, let's look at black leather. There used to be a massive bot farm in Brutal Black Dragons that brought in millions of black dragon leather every day. It made the price drop down to 2k each, which is the lowest it's ever been. But in May 2024, yes, the exact same day Jagex banned the blood shard bots, they also banned these black dragon bots. And what did that do to the price? It kept going up and up and up until it reached almost 5.5k each. So as soon as bots got banned, the price went from 2k to 5.5k. Let's look at another item in the same category, Dragon Bones. And guess what? We see the same pattern again. May 2024, lowest price it's ever been. The bots get banned and the price jumps from 2k each to 4.5k each. And this goes for dozens of other items as well. Now, if you managed to be one of the lucky ones and bought this in bulk back in May 2024, you probably made a massive profit of this. So what I would do is just be on the lookout. Jagex has this thing where they do ban bot farms regularly every week, but sometimes they do a massive ban wave all at once a few times per year, and that makes the prices extremely unstable for short periods. So if you can take advantage of that, it's just the easiest money in the world. Okay, enough about farming bots. I want to quickly mention leagues because it seems like people really love this game mode, and I want to showcase how far it's actually come by now. We've now had 5 leagues in old school RuneScape, and it's interesting to see how the growth of this game has gone up over the years. For example, Twisted Leagues, the first one, had only 110,000 players sign up, and 1,100 players ended up with Dragon Trophy. In Trailblazer League, the second one, we had almost tripled the amount. 284,000 players signed up, and 2,840 people ended up with Dragon Trophy. In Shattered Relics, we had a bit of a pushback, and only 179,000 decided to give it a try. But in Leagues 4, we made a massive comeback and over 422,000 players decided to play this game mode, which is honestly absolutely massive. And we ended up with almost 13,000 players getting the Dragon Trophy. But this is obviously because for the first time, Jagex lifted the restriction that only top 1% of players can get the Dragon Trophy. And instead now, you just needed to hit a static point threshold, and that made more people willing to grind for this trophy. And now, 1 year later, it seems like Leagues 5 has held up those numbers quite well, because currently 415,000 players have signed up for these leagues, and that is absolutely amazing number. I think it's without a doubt the most popular RuneScape game mode of all time, and it's probably going to stay that way as well. Here's hoping League 6 is going to be banger as well. Okay, let's do some quickfire round fun facts and then we'll end the video off with my favorite trivia in this episode. Number 1. The biggest Tombs of a Mascot invocation in the main game is 770, and it's only been completed once. You see, the maximum you can go right now is 600, but there used to be a bug where the stats modifiers for all enemies in TOA were uncapped, meaning you can scale the raid level higher than it's supposed to be. Only one player managed to complete this before Jagex fixed the bug, and his name is Newtype, a player who's been known to break all sorts of insane records in the game, and this Tombs of a Mascot 770 invocation was just another one on the list. Jagex did give him a banhammer for 2 weeks for abusing this bug, but at least he has the bragging rights to be the only person to ever get this achievement. Number 2. You can fill your ochre pillows with the swamp bubbles in Scurrious Lair. I don't know why I added this in, I just thought it was kind of funny. The classic let's bring assets over from one point to another, but yeah, if you ever need to fill your ochre pillows in Varrock, you can do that now. Number 3. There is an item called the Prayer Book that can be an alternative option to curing your poison or venom. Instead of needing anti-poison potions, it uses prayer points to cure your poison and venom. It could be really useful early game when you don't have those levels yet to make the potions or want to save some money. Number 4. If you're an Ironman, you can go to Ground Item Plugin on Runelite, find the ownership filter and set it to takeable. This will disable overlays for all items that you can't pick off the ground due to account restrictions. So if you're an Ironman, you don't see other people's items on the ground. It's very useful in crowded places where you only want to see your own ground items. Number 5. While we're on the topic of Runelite plugins, there is a new one that just recently came out called Unbalanced Trade. And basically what it does is never allow you to accept trades that are not balanced. So if someone is quickly trying to scam you in the trade window, this plugin doesn't allow you to accept the trade if the price isn't even. Very useful and essentially removes the opportunity to get scammed through trade windows. And number 6, currently using Ensouled Bloodweld Heads to train prayer, costs you only 40 million GP to get 99 prayer, and it offers you up to 250,000 prayer experience per hour. It's one of the cheapest and easiest way to get 99 prayer in the game and a good alternative to your regular Dragonbone training method. Also, if you wear Celatropes, there is a 5% chance to save the Ensouled Head, and if you have a Bloodweld Slayer task, this also counts towards that. So if you're looking for other training methods to get your prayer up, this is a good alternative. There we go. Okay, I want to talk about one more thing before we end the video, and that is polls. Throughout the years, there's been so many questions that have failed by just a small margin. And if the wind blew in a different direction on that specific day, old school Runescape would probably look a lot different today. So I want to show you my favorite polls that quite didn't hit the mark. Now keep in mind the threshold was lowered from 75 to 70% few years ago, so if most of these things were polled today, they would already be in the game, at least by those standards. Number 1. If a world is full, players trying to log into will be placed into a queue rather than having to repeatedly log in until there is space. This was polled over 10 years ago and it got 70% yes votes, but unfortunately it didn't make it into the game. Number 2. Should the Armadillo crossbow be graphically reworked? This was a poll in 2014, it got over 74% yes votes, and honestly it looks kinda banger. It definitely has that unique style, and I wonder if it was polled today, would it pass or not? What do you think about this design? Do you think the OG Armadillo crossbow is better, or would you swap it out? Number 4. Should the Dragon Square Shield provide Dragonfire protection? A poll from 2016 and it got 69% yes votes. Very nice, but also not quite enough to pass the threshold. Number 5. Dark Crabs should heal 24 hit points instead of 22. 71% of players voted yes on this, but it never entered the game. The reason this was polled is because currently there are a total of 7 foods that all heal 22 hit points. And since this is from Wilderness, it could have been given a little bit more oomph. But it didn't pass the poll. And finally, number 6. Should the Divine Spirit Shield be added to the game along with Corporeal Beast? 72.8% of people voted yes on this, meaning it failed the poll by just 2.2% of votes. This poll happened 10 years ago, and I imagine if we had Divine Spirit Shields in old school Runescape, the game would look a lot different today. Did you know that the maximum amount of weight you can get in old school Runescape is 1025 kilograms, which for my American friends comes to roughly 2250 pounds. And you can get that weight by wearing all of this. Some interesting notes here. For example, the Elven Glows weigh more than 3 kilograms, even though usually in MMOs, Elven themselves are considered lightweight, and the simple fact that granite ring also weighs 3 kilograms. So imagine wearing ring this heavy on your fingers. But the real weight actually comes from having 28 barrels of coal tar in your inventory. Each of them weighs 32 kilograms, and putting everything together we get just slightly over 1000 kilos, which is almost the weight of your okay, never mind. I'm sorry. Old school RuneScape home teleport animation takes roughly 13 seconds to complete, but there is a teleport scroll in the game that does it 2 seconds faster, and you can get it through the quest speedrunning game mode. The speedy teleport scroll requires 600 points to acquire, and it should take you roughly 1 hour to unlock. Once you activate the animation override, your home teleport now takes 11 seconds to complete instead of 13. Oh, and by the way, if you want to earn the 600 speedrunning points very fast to unlock the scroll, I would recommend speedrunning 3 very easy quests, and those are X marks the spot, Cook's Assistant, and Ernest the Chicken. Those 3 are the fastest to get the best time, which is the diamond tier, and they give you 200 points per quest. Now, granted, it would take you 1 or 2 hours to get the scroll, and it only saves you 2 seconds per teleport, so it will take you years to make up for the lost time. But guess what? The animation is also pretty cool, and you never know, you can end up in Gillenor games, and that 2 seconds of extra time could be the difference maker. Now, enough about saving time, let's talk about pets. Did you know that every pet in the game has attack animation, but you can only see the animation in your player honed house at the Menagerie Pet Arena? For example, this is how Tango Root attacks. Very cool. And this is how the Bloodhound attacks. Also very cool. Every pet has their own unique animation, and it's kind of sad that this is the only place we could see them attack. One idea from Reddit was that we could transform our pets to trolls, and then we can finally see all of them use their own unique attacks depending on the style. Jagex have also slightly hinted that they might bring troll transmogs into the game at some point, so we just have to wait and see until then. Okay, let's talk about Runelite plugins. This is always my favorite topic because it turns out RuneScape players are very creative when it comes to plugins, and there are hundreds of them out there that people still don't know about. It is common knowledge that the best place to get your full graceful is Canifis rooftop course. There is a weird bug about the course that keeps giving you more marks of grace than any other course at this level, and you have a chance to get 1 mark of grace every 3 minutes. There is also a plugin called AFK Marks Canifis, and what this plugin does is basically make the last part of the course unclickable until, of course, the 3-minute timer resets. This means you can AFK 3 minutes, end the lap, and once you start a new one, you have approximately 70% chance to obtain another mark of grace. This plugin allows you to get out to 20 marks of grace per hour, which means it takes you 13 hours to get the full outfit. You can also use the AFK time to work on other skills, like one of the options is training fletching, or maybe even something like magic and high alching until the 3-minute timer is up. The only downside is that you sacrifice experience over the marks of grace, but as someone who absolutely despises training agility, I just wanted to get my full graceful and be done with this. And guess what? This is the best and fastest option for that. The next plugin I have for you is a fun one. It's called RS Paint, and it does exactly what you think it would do. You can draw anything in the game like you would in Paint. The very first thing you have to do is draw a PP. But it does have other uses as well. You can even put down small reminders for yourself, like before doing a farm run, I wrote down this motivational phrase, "Do not forget about my ultra compost." It's actually a very fun plugin to mess around with, and I know that there are some amazing artists out there who can draw more than PPs. And the final plugin I have for you today is the QP position, and this plugin tells you exactly how many spacebars you need to use in order to get the perfect W, because that's what you deserve. A big, fat double. Nah, never mind, I'm just joking. The last one is Looting Bag Utilities plugin, and that one removes the option to destroy your valuable pouches and bags. We all know at one point you're gonna turn your brain off, you're gonna have a brain fart. It happens to all of us. This entirely removes the option to destroy things in your looting bag. But you know what? Here is a fun fact. I noticed that more than 82% of the people who watch these fun facts videos are not subscribed to my channel. So if you want to help me out and make sure you don't miss out on the next video, consider doing me a favor and hitting that subscribe button. Thank you very much. Okay, let's move on from Runelite plugins and let's talk about some quick little tips to help you out. Number 1. the Blue Moon Spear is likely the best mid-game staff to obtain. Not only does it have insane magic attack bonus that even outclasses certain endgame weapons, but it's also the only staff in the entire game that allows you to autocast spells from 3 different spellbooks, and those are Standard, Ancient, and Arceus spellbook. Also, it has a 5% magic damage amplifier, and if you're not an Iron Man, it's actually quite cheap. It currently goes for roughly 600k GP, and the only downside is that it's a two-handed weapon, but honestly you don't even need a shield for most magic cases. And since we're on the topic of Varlamore updates, there is a new NPC called the Frost Crab, and it's located in the dungeon that came with Varlamore Part 2. And guess what? They are 100% weak to fire spells. What does that mean? Well, it means that if your current hit with Firebolt is 12, now it's 24. So basically 100% weakness means double your damage. And if you have Chaos Gauntlets equipped, your maximum hit is now 30 with Firebolt. So this is like the perfect place to come AFK your magic experience. Other than that, this place is exactly like any other crabs location in the game. You have a 10-minute aggression timer, then you have to use the NPC aggression timer plugin on Runelite to refresh that. So that means you only need to look at the game once every 10 minutes. And if you want to take this even a step further, you can use magic amplifying boost to get even more damage. But since there is only few crab spawns in this location, you will at one point start to kill them so fast that they can't even spawn, which limits your experience per hour. And talking about experience, it's roughly 55-60k magic experience per hour. And considering how AFK it is, this is so much better than splashing or doing Nightmare Zone. And finally, if you want to get more value out of this, you can go to a PvP world and use Blighted Surge Sacks and cast even higher fire spells for better experience. Of course, you could get PK'd here and lose all your sacks, but it's also very likely that nobody ever comes here. Of course, me posting this video will make the place more active, but it is something to keep in mind for future. And I wish you good luck, have fun with your magic training. Next up, I want to show you some odd special attacks that nobody really uses. First up, did you know that Ancient Wyvern Shield has a special attack which is basically Ice Blitz? It doesn't use energy, in fact you have to use it in your inventory like other Dragonfire shields, and it has a 2-minute cooldown. The weirdest part is that it has a chance to freeze your target just like Ice Blitz does. The attack rolls based on the monster's defensive level, and the maximum hit is 15. I'm actually surprised it's not been used in the wilderness more often, as you can effectively use this with any armor in the game, because the attack modifier doesn't count your magic accuracy. So you can wear melee armor, you can wear D-hide armor, and you can still successfully hit with it. I bet this shield has some very niche use, but we just haven't figured it out yet. Recently, a Twitch streamer named Scotty broke the world record for Infernal Cape again, and he was the very first player to ever achieve the record under 40 minutes. His final time was 39 minutes and 46 seconds, which is absolutely amazing achievement. The way he juggles the waves perfectly without losing any time, using tools like Death Charge, which gives you more special attack, not taking any food into the cave and relying entirely on blowpipe specs, utilizing melee versus ranged in specific scenarios, it's absolute perfection. When he gets to suck, he moves around the healer attacks perfectly, taking minimum damage while also juggling both Chad and the Major at the same time. He's out of supplies and it's just a DPS race at this point. He gets the time with very good twisted bow hits, and the best part is that after completing the run, he also gets not only the world record but the suck bet as well. Absolute chef's kiss. Not much more to say honestly. And you would think that's it, right? Well, not really. Just a few weeks ago, he almost did it again. He actually managed to get the suck 5 seconds earlier than his current world record, but unfortunately he didn't quite manage to finish it out. It's safe to say that he's not done with his record just yet, and we might hear more about Scotty in the near future. Brimstone Keys. Getting 100 of these bad boys was the longest grind of this video. In total, I got 900,000 Slayer experience collecting all of them, and the best way to go about this is doing bursting Slayer tasks like Dagonots, Abyssal Demons, Dust Devils, and Necreals. The sweet spot for the best drop rate on Brimstone Keys is around 100 combat level NPCs. This lovely graphic is a great way to demonstrate what I mean. For example, if you get a Gunnar task of level 70 monster, you have a roughly 0.45% chance to get a Brimstone Key for every monster you take down. But if you go a little bit higher and get level 100 monster task, that chance almost triples at 1.25% per KC. Additionally, if the monster has a Slayer level requirement, there is a 20% boost in drop rate. That makes monsters like Dust Devils brilliant for this sort of grind because firstly, they're level 110, secondly, they have a 65 Slayer requirement, and finally, it's easy to burst them down and you can extend the Slayer task up to 250. This fits every criteria for a fast Brimstone Key hunting. Overall, the entire grind took me a little bit over 20 hours in total, and another side benefit of getting all the keys was that I also managed to accumulate over 1000 Slayer points through different Gonar tasks. When it finally came down to open all of them, I was specifically looking for two types of items. One of them was the Dragon Fruit Seed. You see, the average Brimstone Key is valued at 100,000 GP. However, if you get lucky, you can snipe 4 Dragon Fruit Seeds with 1 key, and that gives you 800,000 GP. On top of that, what made the loot slightly better was the fact that I had over 97 fishing level. If we take a look at another graphic over here, it showcases that the higher your fishing level is, the more valuable raw fish you get from the chest. So if my fishing level was 1, I would mostly get raw tunas as loot. But since it's level 97, I now get raw sharks, which means more money. Interesting little side note here, when you open up the chest you can see some items inside, like for example Saradomin Brews, even though you can't get that potion from here. This is because on release they added the option to get Saradomin Brews from Brimstone chest, but few days later Jagex removed this because it became the early game meta to get really good potions without actually draining up your Herblore. However, you can still see the little Easter egg inside the chest even 6 years later. I did get 2 collection log items called the Dusk Mystic Row pieces, and it was quite lucky because the individual pieces are 1 in 1000 drop rate. At the end of everything, I made a little bit under 10 million GP, which like I said before comes to roughly 100,000 per single key. So was it worth to do Gonar Slayer for that extra bit of money? Yeah, I think it was. It becomes more valuable once you do unlock those burstable tasks that pump out Brimstone Keys. It's a nice bit of extra money for any account, but if you only care about Slayer experience, I would still pick Neve and Duradel over this Slayer Master. Let's jump from one extremely old piece of content to something that was just recently added, the house keys in Varlamore. Many players have started using this as their main thieving method. Just like with few other keys in the video, they are an excellent way to get easy clues. On top of that, they're extremely AFK training method that requires very minimal attention. It took me 25 minutes of pickpocketing to get 100 house keys, 100k GP, and I also got 7 easy clues during that time. Side note, using Rogue's outfit here is an absolute must. It doubles the amount of house keys you get and also the money you get. There is one more method to get the house keys, which is fishing in this pond nearby, but it isn't nearly as good as the thieving method, and honestly, it has to be one of the most random things in the game because the items I got from here can only be described as unusual. Once I had the 100 house keys, it was time to put them to use. There are a total of 3 houses you can use to break in, and they randomly swap every 2 minutes. There is a Runelite plugin called House Thieving Varlamore that indicates which house is available, and the method itself is quite simple. You go inside the house, you click on a chest or a closet or a table, and it automatically starts pickpocketing valuables. Occasionally you get the indicator for extra valuables you can find around the house, and that gives you boost of experience. Once the 2 minutes is up, you can see the NPC returning to their house and you have to escape through the window. As soon as you're out, another house becomes available and you just go through them one by one until you used up all the keys. Sometimes you also get an item called bone statues. You can use a chisel on them to turn into bone shards. Overall, it took me a little bit over 5 hours to use up all 100 keys, and the experience here is quite good considering how chill it is. I got 560,000 thieving experience for 100 keys, and that comes to around 110,000 per hour. After everything was said and done, my inventory looked quite stacked with jewelry that I gathered, some bone shards for 22,000 prayer experience, and 12,500 valuables. The way you can profit off these valuables is by talking to Oriana right next to the Varlamore bank. She wants to know how many valuables you want to turn in, and I got over 700,000 GP for using up all 100 house keys. Honestly, I think the better part is just all the thieving experience from this. If you want to level up your thieving but don't want to put that much effort into training, this is a perfect place to start. Also, if you're into clue scrolls, you can get 15 easy clues per hour by pickpocketing the wealthy citizens. I got over 250 reward rolls, and Jagex also upgraded the way you can use this up. It used to be that you get Wintertodt crates and you can stack them up in your bank to open whenever you want. They changed that, so now it's just a big reward cart right next next to the bank, and you can do it two ways. Either small pools for a single reward or big ones that give you 5 rewards at the same time, kinda like we have with Tempoross. I was missing few items from my collection log like the Pyromancer boots and the Dome of Fire, which I did end up getting. I didn't expect to get the bet, and I don't think I'm gonna go for it anyways because it's a 1 in a 5,000 drop, and that's just too long. It's basically 150 hours for a skill that I'm already 99 at. Homies that are subscribed to the channel know how much I love to yap about Dome of Fire in my videos. I genuinely believe it's one of the best early game items to have on any Iron Man. Worst case scenario, it saves you an inventory slot for infinite fire runes. Best case scenario, it helps you with mid game bosses, especially if you put it together with items like Twin Flame Staff or Iban Staff. This also goes really well with the recent magic changes where Jagex is bringing in more elemental weakness monsters that are weak to fire spells. Other than that, the normal loot is immaculate here. I made a video about a year ago how you should do 99 Hunter with rumors before you come here, and honestly, now I think you can easily do both of these activities on your Iron Man. Once you have 99 Hunter and 99 Fire making completed, you have so many supplies that you basically don't have to worry about anything for a long time. Herbs, food, gems, logs, seeds, prayer experience, weapons, money, and much more. These 2 minigames just dump out everything. Whenever I'm gonna make a new account, 100% the very first thing I'll do is 99 Hunter and 99 Fire making. Desert Treasure 1 origin story is one of the most fascinating things in this game's history. Back in 2004, Runescape started getting more and more popular every single day, which also meant Jagex needed more people to work for them. Developers, community managers, analysts, customer support, and much more. So during the summer of 2004, Jagex hired tons of interns through universities in Cambridge to work on smaller projects in the game like quests, minigames, etc, etc. 3 positions were opened up for content developers, and Jagex said that we will give you absolute free choice on what you want to work on. One was the Monkey Madness quest, which players absolutely loved, but the developers in the future hated. The second option was Throne of Miscellanea, which also brought Kingdom Management. And the final option was Multi-Part Quest, which was the only thing they had going on for them. So the intern got to work, and nobody bothered him for an entire summer. When the QA analyst came to look what he achieved, they for the life of them couldn't believe what happened. Firstly, this multi-part quest had so many problems, starting with the fact that the quest giver was supposed to be the final boss. But if you're fighting the final boss, then other players can't start the quest, because the quest giver is currently busy, meaning only one player can do the quest at a time. Secondly, the intern added a login check for every player, and if they hadn't started the quest, the player would be immediately teleported to the start of the quest without any notice upon their login. Also, even though this was a members quest, the free-to-play players would have been also teleported as well. Doesn't matter if you're level 3, max account, free to play, if you have any quests completed, if you have any stats, everyone would have been teleported to the start of Desert Treasure quest. Not only that, but the dialogue was so poorly written with spelling errors in almost every sentence. The intern was immediately fired on the spot, but there was a problem now. Jagex had an entire quest worth of assets they couldn't use, and they were definitely not gonna throw those assets away. Since all of it was put together rather fast, there are now some odd instances of Desert Treasure that you might notice. One example is that the quest is called Desert Treasure, but you barely spend any time in desert at all. Or how there are tons of one-off characters in the quest that never appear anywhere else again, like the dude living in the sewers under Trainer Village. And finally, the fact that Majorat at the end of Desert Treasure 1 looks like Anubis, which was an asset for the previous quest, and no other Majorat looks like this. So basically, Desert Treasure 1, likely the most famous quest in RuneScape's history, was put together on the back of some questionable choices to say the least. Mechscape. Like I mentioned before, the news of RuneScape back in 2005 spread like wildfire. Suddenly the game became one of the most popular MMOs in just few years. That also meant more revenue, which meant Jagex as a gaming company could start working on other projects. Their very first project, and the first time it was mentioned in 2006, was Mechscape. The way this game was described was sci-fi space game similar to RuneScape, and Jagex worked on this project for 3 years without revealing anything about Mechscape. Players were excited to say the least, but as with any new MMO, it takes sometimes up to 10 years to develop a full game. So it came as a shock to players in 2009 when Jagex said that they were just not happy with Mechscape, so they are gonna scrap some of it, but they're still working on the project, which is now gonna be called Stellar Stone, and that's their future sci-fi MMO. Players got to see even more concept art, which made everyone very excited. Players also had the chance to sign up for a beta access on Stellar Dawn website, and you can definitely notice how how the development of Runescape or Stellar Dawn was in full effect. Jagex confirmed that after 5 years of development, they are planning to release Stellar Dawn somewhere around 2011. However, just 1 year later in 2012, Mod MMG said that the development of this massive MMO that was supposed to throw everything else to the side is now put on pause. 1 year later, Mod MMG said that they are looking to continue developing the game sometimes in the near future, but in 2015 the development came to a full stop and Mod Matt K stated that Runescape is put on hold indefinitely. He then adds that he managed to play an early version of the game and it was very cool. You had a spaceship which you did research and build components to make parts for your vehicle. Then you could land on different planets, gather loot, blow stuff up and so much more. It was supposed to be the next generation of RuneScape, but it never came out. Rock climbing boots. Climbing boots are one of the most iconic boots in RuneScape. Costing only 12 GP to buy, they were the perfect pair of boots for pures with 1 defense. They gave +2 strength bonus, which was the best option for low level peakers at the time, and the boots have always been in demand, mostly because to get them manually you have to go through a lengthy dialogue, or you could just spend the extra money and buy them from other players. This also was a thriving place for bots because players for the most part didn't want to manually go through the dialogue for a pair of boots. But for scripting, this was perfection. Jagex countered that with giving the quest NPC a shop interface so players could just buy an entire inventory with few clicks. It was such a cheap alternative option, especially for PKs for almost no cost. At this point, it's causing certain balance issues because the item was meant for PKers, and if PKers can have good items without risking any money, that's a problem. So Jagex had to come up with another solution. The climbing boots were meant as a quest item that gave no bonuses, but after you complete the quest, you can buy rock climbing boots, which now sell for 75,000 GP. Everything was approved, and as with every update, an email was sent out to Jagex's staff beforehand. The normal weekly update happens. Few changes in free-to-play, a new quest and changes to the climbing boots. It took only 1 hour until the riots started gathering where players called this the worst update of all time. The problem was simple. All the current climbing boots in players' bank were turned into rock climbing boots, meaning if you bought climbing boots before the update for 12 GP each, those same boots would now have a value of 75,000 coins, making few PKers literally billionaires overnight. Modmark tried to calm down the player base, saying there was only a handful of people who had over 1,000 pairs of boots, so in the grand scheme of things it doesn't hurt the economy. That turned out to be a lie, because as soon as the post was made, people started sharing boast of them having more than 10,000 boots in their bank that they probably spent less than 1 million GP on. And now those same boots cost almost 1 billion GP. There was even a collection with over 400,000 boots, which was estimated to be around 250 billion GP. Imagine your bank value grows this much by doing nothing. This caused a massive suspicion in players, especially after a forum post came out saying there is a rogue Jagex moderator who revealed the information to few selected players on day 1 before the update happened. It didn't help that when players went to complain on the official forums, Jagex kept deleting these threads to somehow hide the negative feedback while simultaneously doubling down and saying that everything is fine, and this doesn't have that big of an effect as players might think it is. As with every riot in RuneScape, things started to calm down, but the statement was made. Players genuinely believed there was some inside job that made few players rich. What it did, however, is make a lot of players quit. Because imagine a scenario when you have 3 pairs of boots and you obtain over 200k GP from it. Your friend, however, has 3,000 boots and their bank value jumps up hundreds of millions of GP overnight. That was an extremely demotivating for a lot of players, and was just one of the many reasons why the player base of RuneScape started to heavily decline in 2011. There's an alternative method to gaining more marks of grace than just aimlessly doing Canifis rooftop course. With the release of Varlamore, you can actually do both rooftop and the worm course at the same time, to gain about 25% more marks per hour. If you want the fastest way to get your graceful outfit, or just an extra way to get Amelize packs or termites, this is what you do. First of all, run your favorite rooftop course, or the ones you have access to. Let's say a big Sears village. I run the rooftop until I see a mark of grace. This now starts a 3-minute cooldown timer, where no other marks can spawn on this course. And what it allows me to do is use another agility course meanwhile. After I get my Marks of Grace, I use the Civitas Illas Fortis teleport. I take a quest out of the worm course, do 1 or 2 laps depending on how much time I have left, and there's a high chance that my character picks up any termites during the agility lap, and these termites can later be traded for extra Marks of Grace. The idea is that you're losing a little bit of experience, but you gain a lot more marks in return. On top of that, you also break up the monotone part of agility of just, running around in circles. 1 hour at Sears Rooftop plus Worm Course got me 25 Marks of Grace and around 45,000 agility experience with the Candarin Hard Diary. The way you turn termites into Marks of Grace is by buying the Amalize packs at the Worm Course with the termites, then going to Grace and selling those same Amalize back to her. You get 8 Marks of Grace for 1 back, and bada bim bada boom, you now have the fastest way to get a graceful outfit. As someone who has multiple sets of graceful, getting over 25 marks per hour makes this grind a lot faster. Whether you want to unlock cosmetics from the worm store, get more Amalize packs for stamina potions, or unlock all those multiple variations of graceful, this is the way to do it. Also, on top of getting everything I mentioned before, I ended up getting about 2000 prayer experience from bone shards and 4000 magic experience from teleports. It's nothing much, but just another small side benefit to have. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Blighted food. Did you know that you can eat a blighted anglerfish at the Castle Wars lobby? You don't have to go to the wilderness to get that sweet overhill from the fish. Currently, at the time of making this video, blighted anglerfish are 165 GP, and it's a really cheap way to prepare before doing any PVM encounters. The way I like to do it, and this is mental by the way, I'm taking this too far, but bear with me here. I use my house tab. I spec with the ancient mace to get 125 prayer points, restore my stats at the pool. Right next to it is the jewelry box that takes me to Castle Wars, and then I can pre-pot here with a blighted anglerfish plus super combat. Before I start my next PVM trip, I have 120 plus prayer, 120 plus health, and a super combat potion running right now. It's nothing massive, but it does add up over time, especially if you're doing tons of PVM trips and constantly banking. All the Blighted supplies work here. So for example, if you don't have a restoration pool in your house, the Blighted Super Restore costs about 600 GP per dose, and if you're lazy like me, you can use that to restore your prayer points. These also work in the same way at Varrock's Enclave, so if you have some leftover Blighted supplies or need cheap alternatives to restore your stats, you can do them at these lobbies. If you want to go really cheap, you can go to Varrock's Enclave with Ring of Dwelling, use the pool to restore your stats, and then use a Blighted Anglerfish to get that overheal. It's like the poor man's version of the Elite Desert Diary reward. Cheap and effective combo. And since we're already on the topic of teleporting to Varrock's Enclave, I want to quickly mention this ring that could be very useful to certain accounts if you have some leftover jades. Ring of Returning. Not many players use this, but it has amazing teleports if used correctly. It has one purpose: teleport your character to your spawn location. As it so happens, there are so many of them and each one has their own purpose. Let's start with the simple one. Since everyone begins with Lumbridge spawn, the ring has 5 charges, which means you get 5 Lumbridge teleports that end up being much cheaper than any other option. Also, it doesn't take up inventory space with runes. Same goes for Valador spawn, Camelot spawn, Ardoin spawn. You can swap them out pretty early on into your account and get free teleports to those locations. But let's say you want to get fast access to Kurend Slayer dungeon. After you complete Kingdom Divided, you can set your spawn point to Kurend Castle, and this ring can teleport you right at the front entrance. Maybe you want a fast access to Briftenas. You can set your spawn point there and it teleports you right in the middle of the city where you have access to everything in Briftenas. If you manage to get to Wave 5 in Colosseum, you can set your spawn point in Civitas Illa Fortis, which by the way goes really well with the previous thing where I talked about using the Worm Course for Marks of Grace. If you have 5 million GP, you can set your spawn point to Edgeville or Varrock's Enclave and use this ring as well. It has a lot of uses, and considering how cheap it is not only to buy but also to make it yourself, it could be an alternative option to get a certain type of teleport. And since we're on the topic of rings, I wanna mention another one. I talked about it briefly in my previous video, but there is a new best early game hunter training method. It used to be that you block any hunter rumor task that required Noose Wand because they just took so long to finish. But this has changed since the Pursuit Ring update last year. It used to be that you had a 25% chance to activate Ring of Pursuit once you start tracking a Kebbit. Jagex buffed this when Hunter skill came out and made it 100%. That means every single time you start tracking the Kebbits while you have this ring equipped, it automatically basically reveals the entire track and you can just go from starting point to end point and keep gathering loot and experience. At level 49 Hunter, you can get upwards of 125,000 experience an hour doing this method because a single Kebbit that you're guaranteed to catch gives 349 Hunter experience. The ring is much faster than the Runelite plugin for Kebbit hunting. That's how good it is. If you have this, you can also bring a Bone Crusher and a Chisel with you. The Bone Crusher gives you small amounts of passive prayer experience, and the Chisel can be used to turn Kebbit spikes into bolts, which later can be sold because they are like 50 GP each. This used to be a task that you block on your hunter room or list, but with this ring I genuinely recommend doing it. At around level 50 to 60 hunter, this is one of the fastest training methods in the game, and it also gives you a nice bit of extra money while completing the task. Also, side note, if you have the hunter's kit that you got from the rumors, you can store all your rings inside that so it doesn't take up inventory space. And since we're already on the topic of early game training methods, let's move over to combat. Last year, Jagex added this new combat feature called Flat Armor, and some of the creatures in the game have really good boosted experience rates because of this. You see, if a monster has -2 flat armor, that means every successful hit does 2 more damage. This works really good with fast weapons. The more you hit, the more damage you deal. We've seen that a lot with Nugwas in Varlamore. People really enjoy draining their melee combat here because all the Nugwas have -4 flat armor, meaning if you have a melee weapon that has 2 hit splats, you can get +8 extra damage per hit. But there's also something for range training, so I wanted to go test it out and see the results myself. Number 1, Shades in Catacombs have -3 flat armor, meaning every successful hit gives you +3 damage. This is even more amplified by Salve Amulet that gives you 20% boost on hit. There's also a safe spot to attack them, and this has no requirements, meaning you can literally come here at level 1 ranged if for some reason you still haven't trained it, pick a safe spot and you go to down. You'll likely get much better experience early on than you do anywhere else in the game just because of the -3 flat armor. But Shades have a problem, which is the 100 defensive stats, meaning if you have a low range level and not that much accuracy, you will see a lot of zeros no matter what. That being said, if you have like a mega budget setup with steel knives, d'hide armor and just a salve amulet without even using ranging potions, these are the kind of raids you can expect to get with this training method. Of course, adding offensive prayers and potions into the mix will increase your experience even more. The other method is doing Grimy Lizards at the Moons of Peril dungeon. They have a -2 flat armor, meaning once again, every successful hit gives you 2 extra damage. Unlike Shades with 100 defensive stats, these lizards have only 35, meaning you can start tackling them at very low levels. On top of that, since you can make food and potions inside the dungeon, that means you don't need to bring your own supplies. This essentially gives you limited use of protection prayers or Eagle Eye for that 15% boost in damage. The only thing you need to bring yourself is an anti-poison, but that shouldn't be a problem. Also, it's not a must, but when I tested this out, I brought a goading potion with me that gave me 6 minutes of aggro against all the grimy lizards. And while having enough prayer bonus that lasted me for 6 minutes, it was kind of a nice AFK training method. On top of that, I bring super anti-poisons that also last for 6 minutes. So I set a timer for 6 minutes, pick up all the loot, sip another dose of goading potion, sip another dose of super anti-potion, and use the prayer potions I made inside the dungeon to restore my prayer, and then go AFK for another 6 minutes. The most interesting point is their drop table. Alongside dropping nature runes and medium clues, they have probably the highest chance of giving you teak and mahogany seeds in the game. You get so much farming experience by hunting these grimy lizards, and it definitely does add up over time. Also, this is just a side note, if you want to get free ranging experience with almost no effort, you can do melee scurries and use any type of knives on the little rats when they spawn. You get 60 experience a pop, since you usually get 2 sets of tiny rats per KC, that passively gives you 720 ranged experience per a single scurrious KC. The small rats always get one shot no matter what, so by bringing bronze knives, you can passively go from level 1 to 50 ranged by just training your melee up. And then at level 50, you can equip the Bone Shortbow, which gives you even more experience. This is essentially a zero-time method that many efficient players use to get their early ranged levels. By the way, if you're still watching this video, I'm desperately trying to get to 40,000 subscribers before 2025 ends. So if this video helped you out in any way, or if you want to see more of this, please help me out, because I'd love to continue doing this series. That's all. Let's continue with fun trivia. Let me show you a thieving method that I briefly have mentioned before, but I think it deserves its own section in this video. Many players pickpocket NPCs like master farmers, RT knights, and so on. The negative side of that is you constantly taking damage, you constantly having to heal, and there's just a lot of downtime where you fail to pickpocket and have to sit and wait there doing nothing. If you have 75 thieving, I would highly recommend coming to Varlamore and instead training your thieving up at these gem stalls. First of all, you have a 100% chance to steal the gems here. You can never get caught unless you accidentally misclick in some way because of the safe spots. Secondly, they give uncut gems and you get hundreds of these per hour. You can either turn them into crafting experience or you can just sell them for profit. Jagex made a change last year where the thieving experience awarded for stealing gem stalls went from 160 to 408. Also, the downtime of gem stalls went from 100 seconds to 60. aka these stalls got a massive buff and they're actually worth doing now. The way I like to do it is, once again, go to Civitas Illas Fortis near the wealthy citizens. By going to one side of the gem stall, at the corner you can pickpocket the stall without any of the guards ever catching you. Then do the exact same thing on the other side. By staying at the corner, you will never get caught. Once you pickpocket both of them, you world hop and repeat this again. After 60 seconds, the stalls respawn and you can come back to your initial world. This gives you around 200,000 thieving experience per hour, while also getting about 150,000 GP in gems. Also, if you have a gem bag available, don't forget about that as well. Less spanking means more experience and gems per hour. And since we're already on the topic of thieving, if you're planning to do Rogue's Chest as your training method, bring a couple of Blighted Ancient Sacks with you for free experience during your downtime. After you pickpocket all 3 chests, there's a couple of seconds of doing nothing. You can use this time to ice barrage or ice burst the rogues that are all nicely stacked up. The ancient sacks don't really cost that much, plus you get extra from the rogue chest as a drop, so technically you should never run out. When I tested it out with Ice Barrage, I got a nice 75,000 magic experience per hour while not losing any time on thieving. Again, it's just a small little benefit to have. But okay, let's move away from training that skill and I want to give you some quick fire round tips. Let's do about 6 trivia points in 3 minutes or so. And we're starting with Forestry. If you have an early game account, one of the ways you can restore your run energy is through Foresty Rations. You have about 1 in 3 chance to restore 20% of your run if you successfully chop down a tree while having Foresty Rations in your backpack. This could be used as a way to alleviate early game run problems most players have. You got a tree, once it goes down, bam, 20% extra energy. Since there are tons of trees all around the map, it's just useful to have an axe and the Foresty Rations with you. Whenever your run starts getting low, just chop a couple of trees and it goes back up to 100% real fast. The way to make Foresty Rations is by using any type of leaves you get from woodcutting on any type of fish. You can also use them as an early game moneymaker, for example using cooked bass and willow leaves to make Foresty Rations gives you about 500,000 GP an hour. Also, the oak leaves are a great way to make compost. Usually, if you do some forestry at the beginning of your account, you're gonna have a lot of leftover leaves that you might not use. So if you put them into a bin alongside with a compost potion and volcanic ash, you can get super compost pretty early on. Okay, let's briefly talk about the Gemstone Crab before I end this video. I see a lot of people using attack potions here. You don't have to do that. In fact, attack levels almost don't matter at Gemstone Crab at all. Only strength levels. For example, if you have 50 attack versus 99 attack, your accuracy is only 1% better. With 50 attack, you have 97% accuracy and 99 attack gives you 98% accuracy, since Gemstone Crab defense is already at level 1. That's why things like Dragon Battle Axe special attack are much better. You just get tons of strength boost with no downsides. Also, if you're looking to get some free strength boost, at one of the Gemstone Crab locations, there are Black Warlock spawns nearby. They act almost like a 1-dose super strength potion and can be applied to nearby players with accept aid as well. So if you ran out of strength potions and need a quick buff, you can catch one of these Black Warlocks with Hunter to get a significant strength bonus. Okay, next up, you don't need to fix the fairy ring in Arceus anymore like you used to back in the day. If you did fix it a long time ago, you can speak to the NPC again and reclaim that 80,000 GP back that you spent here many years ago. If you're manually cleaning grimy herbs for that sweet Iron Man experience, you can use inventory tags in Runelite to see which ones you missed. Makes it easier to get a full inventory instead of missing a couple. If you can, try to use the cemetery teleport instead of burning amulet if you're doing bones at the Chaos altar. The burning amulet spot is oftentimes guarded by other PKers, and you're much likely to get caught teleporting that way. This one is so much safer and nobody camps the cemetery teleport spot, so you can easily get to the altar without being attacked. If you completed the Forsaken Tower quest, there is a really fast way to travel around Kurent. Just use Kurent's woodland by using Radha's Blessing. There's a minecart right next to it that allows you to teleport to Farming Guild, Wintertodt, Chambers of Serik, Tide Farm, and many other places in Seiya. It's a free way to get around Kurent without any other effort. A Radha's Blessing 1 can be obtained very early on. To make your item mining a little bit more chill, you can line up 2 rocks in Ardi Monastery so one rock is behind the other from your point of view and your character is between them. Then you can use menu entry swap at the empty rock to walk here so you're not spamming the depleted iron ore. Since the first rock is now click through, the second rock immediately becomes left clickable. This means you don't have to change camera angles or move your mouse when mining any iron ore in the game, and it makes the grind a lot easier. And finally, before I send you off, there is an entire list of amazing old school Runescape content creators on Wiki. So if you're struggling on what kind of YouTube videos you want to watch next, the Wiki guys have made a list of popular Runescape YouTube series with hundreds of different names, and I will put that link in the description so you can choose what to watch next. But I thank you for watching this one. Please subscribe so I can pay rent next month. I love you all very much. Bye.